TV channel 279 all across the world on 3news.com. This week, we have a discussion for you. The reaction of the governor of the Bank of Ghana to the protest organized against him and his two deputies by the minority MPs and other civil society organizations has got a lot of people talking and questioning the basis for Dr. Ernest Addison saying that the MPs know better than hitting the streets like hooligans. So he delegated his head of security to receive their petition. Minority MPs saying if Dr. Addison and his two deputies do not resign, they will show them how hooligans behave. Take a look.
That is the president and the current finance minister have on several occasions used peaceful protests, in fact sometimes violent protests, as means of registering their views. So in effect he's calling President Akufo-Addo and finance minister hooligans. I think they should take a cue from what their appointee is saying. He can sit in his ivory tower and speak quite loosely, feeling that, of course, the appointing authority is an accomplice. So he's not going to be sacked. But the day of reckoning is coming. As for us in Parliament, we take note of what he's saying. Parliament will resume very shortly. And we have few ideas as to how we are going to deal with the governor. But as far as we are concerned, he's a persona non grata currently, and we shall treat him like that. He wants us to be, he described us as hooligans. We shall show him who hooligans are.
That's Governs Kwame Agboja there. Now, how do we resolve the current financial status of the Bank of Ghana? That's central to all of this back and forth, with the same man and his deputies at the helm of affairs. Also, the prevailing economic challenges in the country has caused many Ghanaians to find ways of bettering their lots. There used to be medical personnel who left the country in droves for greener pastures. Now, teachers have taken a cue. More than 10,000 teachers have left Ghana in this year alone to the UK. The National Teaching Council has thus called for urgent steps to deal with increasing attrition rate amongst teachers. Now, what policies has the government put in place to stem this tide? Now, for the teachers, they say that there are so many failed promises by this government which they cannot gloss over, and reason why something different needs to be done. Musa Tanko is General Secretary of the Ghana National Association of Teachers. Take a look.
The teachers we need for the education we want. The global imperative towards reversing or to reverse the teacher shortage. There are three main things we need to look out for. Currently, the teaching and learning environment in the public schools is not something to write home about. When you go into a typical public school today, some of the students sit in large numbers, some sit in threes, among other things. Some even have no furniture. We have challenges with infrastructure, among other things. The other thing that we need to address is the issue of providing the tools and equipment, the TLMs, among other related materials for teaching and learning. The issue of the condition of teachers. On this particular day, let us remember, the teacher's right is also a human right. Every teacher should be able to retire into a two-bedroom house, at least minimum.
Well, it says two-bedroom house at least minimum. Recall that promises were made that affordable houses were going to be built for the teachers. How far with that? We'll have a conversation. Well, the International Monetary Fund has given the country a clean bill of health. Ghana will receive, all things being equal, the second tranche of the bailout of $600 million after successful review, and then also pending the approval of the IMF's executive board. The IMF's chief of mission in Ghana says there's been vast improvement of Ghana's economic situation. Stefan Roder yesterday addressed the press with the Bank of Ghana governor and the finance minister. Take a look.
What makes us very optimistic is that these actions are already generating positive results. Growth in 2023 has proven more resilient than what we were initially envisaging. Inflation has declined. The fiscal and external positions have improved. International reserves are increasing again, and exchange rate volatility has significantly reduced. Once our executive board review is completed, Ghana would have access to another $600 million, bringing the total IMF financial support disbursed under the arrangement since May, when the program was approved, to about $1.2 billion.
Has Ghana achieved stability? The economy achieved stability, as the finance minister posited earlier. And also, with our engagement with our external creditors, understand that in the coming weeks, an agreement may be reached, but at what cost? What are we given in return for the number of compromises that the external creditors will agree to? These shall be our key points for discussion the next 3 hours here on Key Point on TV3. We're live on 3FM 92.7. My guest will be joining me right after this quick break. Samuel Okudzeto, Blackwell MP for Northton constituency. Professor Godfrey Bobkin is a professor of finance at University of Ghana Business School. Also, Matic Bibu, private legal practitioner. Also, we have Professor Ransford Jampo. He's a professor of political science at the University of Ghana, Legon, and Richard Ahiagba, who's the director of communications of the NPP. We will be back shortly. Stay with us.
Emirates Premium Economy. One day, all airlines will have seats like this. Fly Emirates, fly better.
Oh no!
Mommy, hurry up!
We are out of cereal and there's no time to make something else.
Good morning, honey. What's the panic?
We are running late and I don't have anything for Kojo's breakfast.
Fear not. I've got just the right thing for you.
McBerry breakfast cereal biscuits. I've heard great things about it.
Biscuit for breakfast?
Yes.
McBerry breakfast cereal biscuits are made with goodness of cereals and milk for a good start to your day.
Wow, Mom, this is delicious. Oh, Mom, can we have this every day?
Yeah, that's a good idea. Why not?
You know.
So let's hurry.
Start your day with a smile and McBerry breakfast cereal biscuits. Goodness for your mornings. This advert is FDA approved.
Jackpot of the week. Place bets and hit the jackpot. Log into the OneXBet account. Click on the Take Part button. Place bet and take part in the jackpot draw. Give your luck a chance. Use promo code to get a bonus on your first deposit.
This advertisement has been vetted and approved by the Gaming Commission of Ghana. Bet responsibly, not for persons below 18 years. Gambling can be addictive.
I just took a shower above the clouds. You know why? Because this is the Emirates A380.
Eliza, are you sleeping on the job, girlfriend?
I was dreaming. I woke up to this nightmare.
Alyssa, an 18-year-old, runs away from home to escape the abuse and harassment of her stepfather.
Come any closer and I will cut you.
For a hope of a better life in the city and to pursue her dream of becoming a supermodel.
Hold on, wait a second. You're very pretty.
She soon finds out that achieving her dream will be a lot harder than she ever imagined. She gets caught up in a web of two men after her heart, a street vendor who believes in her dream and another who's making her dream happen.
You must be the famous Carolina Castillo.
How are you, dear? This is Lily, my beloved wife.
Watch the story unfold in Total Dreamer, a captivating, intriguing, and thrilling drama. Total Dreamer, premiering this Monday at 8 p.m. on TV3.
Brought to you by
MTN DES Shower Gel.
Mac Brown's Kitchen. Mac Brown's Kitchen.
I'm ready to send me to Mac Brown's Kitchen. New season, new stations. Hey, Mac Brown's Kitchen. Oh, I want TV so I check. I knew who you check, but then I'm here. And Chakrano, but TV3. Mimi Devia, 5 to 6 p.m. Nana Yabasha Mwati, Minimi Kunumi, my Yabasha Sasako, Ghana Fodo.
McBrown's Kitchen, premiering Saturday, October 7th at 5 p.m. on TV3.
The past 12 weeks of this year's Ghana's Most Beautiful competition, contestants have been on a journey of sheer determination, showcasing great talent and the rich culture of our beautiful nation on the Ghana's Most Beautiful stage. 5 beautiful ladies, Na Ayele, the courageous one from the Greater Accra region, Adwanigi, the bold one from the Upper East region, Selom, the ambitious one from the Volta region, Kwatma, the determined one from the Bunu region, and Nura, the assertive one from the Northern region. Come 8th of October at the National Theatre, dreams will be realized, and one of these exceptional ladies will be crowned Ghana's Most Beautiful 2023. Keep pushing your favorite contestants to win the most coveted crown, the cash, and the car by voting to the short code *713 *13# on all mobile networks. You can also download the TV3 Reality app on App Store or Play Store. It will be an amazing night of glitz and glamour. Grab your tickets for a cool 50 Ghana cedis and come support your favorite queen on the 8th of October at the National Theatre, 8 p.m. sharp. Ghana's Most Beautiful, Ghana's Beauty, Africa's Pride.
GMB 2023 is sponsored by Gino Tomato Mix, GTP, Techno Camon 20 Series, AT, Pepsodent Charcoal and Lemon Infused Formula and Pepsodent Natural Herbal Formula, Geisha Moringa and Geisha Black Soup, Key Soup, Bell Pack Tissues, Sankofa Natural Spices, Vitamilk, Deluxe Acrylic Paint, Nescofa Blood Tonic, Heaven Black Mosquito Spray and Coil, Enapa Foods, Freedom from Casapreco, Frutelli Calipo, Duffy's Health and Beauty, Obuasi Bitters, Nubna Womwankasa, Dragnet, Shalatem, Top Choco.
Save 500.
Global Wings Travel and Tour.
Makeup was done by House of Tara.
As a woman, how seriously do you take your health? Back here in Ghana, do you think that we take our health seriously?
One of the reasons why we have very low life expectancy.
Yes.
Our I was telling a friend, once your mom is getting ready for pension, you start looking for a funeral policy.
How many times in a year do you check your BMI, your blood pressure, or simply your body temperature?
You are 31.83, which means you are obese. But the good thing is, you can slightly come down to leave the red zone into the amber zone. Okay.
This week on Today's Woman, Stefana Sefa Boateng is our guest. She's here to teach you exactly what you need to do to keep your health in check. This is happening this very Saturday, 3 p.m. right here on TV3 with me, Cookie T.
Today's Woman with Cookie T shows Saturdays at 3 p.m. on TV3. Brought to you by Latex Foam.
Welcome back to Key Point here on TV3. We're live on 3FM 92.7, also live on TV3 Ghana on Facebook, DSTV channel 279, all across the world on 3news.com. My guests already seated, and also you out there, our viewers, an integral part of this conversation. Professor Ransford Jampo is a professor of political science at the University of Ghana, Legon. and respected governance expert across the continent and beyond. Professor John Paul, good morning. Welcome.
Morning. Thanks for having me.
Also, Martin Kpebu is private legal practitioner, and he is a leader of one of 3 individual bondholder groups and the convener of the Kumi Prekun Reloaded demonstration. Lawyer Martin Kpebu, good morning and welcome.
Good morning, Mr. Kansi.
Samuel Okudzeto Ablakwa is Member of Parliament for the North Tongue constituency. He is the ranking member on the Foreign Affairs Committee of Parliament. He's a former Deputy Education Minister. I say this because of this teacher conversation, attrition rate of teachers we'll be talking about this morning. Professor Godfred Bobkin is a professor of finance at the University of Ghana Business School. Professor Godfred Bobkin, good morning and thank you for joining us.
Yes, good morning. And good morning to our cherished listeners and viewers. And good morning to my bosses.
Great. Samuel Okudzeto Ablakwa is seated now. So, good morning to you.
Hi, good morning, Alfred.
Yes, welcome. Also, will be joining us shortly is Richard Ahiagba, the Director of Communications of the New Patriotic Party. Will be joining us in a bit. But before we went for that quick break, we heard clearly what the statements attributed to the governor of the central bank after the Occupy BOG demonstration, which was postponed a number of times because of the engagement with the Ghana Police Service about the route to take and so on. On the day of the demonstration, the protesters got to meet officials of the central bank, but decided not to give them the petition because they wanted the governor or his 2 deputies, who were not around. You understand, they were meeting the IMF team in this country. Zabalakwa, I'll start off with you. First of all, why did you not, and these are questions that have been asked, why you didn't submit the petition to the delegation of the Bank of Ghana that met you? Start off with that.
Well, good morning to you, Alfred. Good morning to all our viewers. It's good to be back on your program. Indeed. Let me state that, first of all, it is important to commend the mammoth crowd that showed up for the Occupy BOG demonstration. The attendance was impressive. It was a really massive participation, and it tells you that the vast majority of Ghanaians are reeling under the harsh economic policies of this government. The Bank of Ghana, as we all know, has been run down. It's been made bankrupt. Our reserves have been depleted. For the first time in the history of our country, the central bank has recorded losses to the tune of 60.8 billion Ghana cedis. It's never happened. A negative equity of 55 billion. As we speak, this governor is in flagrant violation of Section 30 of Act 918. He has printed money to the tune of 77 billion Ghana cedis. I mean, this is not conduct which is lawful, which is allowable, which is acceptable. 77 billion Ghana cedis without parliamentary approval. The law is very clear. Then in the midst of all of this crisis, remember that before even the publication of this 2022 financial statement, which portrays a grim reality, a collapse of the central bank, this is a governor who has embarked on the most reckless of decisions with his financial sector cleanup. Many experts, many analysts had told him that, look, don't go for the nuclear option. Adopt a humane approach where you take out the bad directors. You can even have them prosecuted. And then do some injection, which will not even be up to 10% of the very reckless, expensive model that he adopted. He refused to listen, went for the nuclear option. As we speak, the conservative analysis is that because of that nuclear option, more than 50,000 workers in the banking and financial sector have lost their jobs. We all know people, top bank managers, mates of ours, who were doing well as bank managers, who today are Uber drivers, some remain unemployed at home and all of that, because of that reckless option. And the figures keep changing, between 20 to 30 billion that he spent on that so-called financial sector cleanup. The consequences we are still living with. Now, the printing of money that he engaged in illegally, we all know that that also has driven inflation to unacceptable levels, destructive levels. At a point, went as high as 54%. So we are talking about a manager of the central bank who has been so reckless. And we have seen the things that he has prioritized, even in the midst of crisis. Would you believe, Alfred, that in the midst of this humongous crisis, this governor decides that he wants a new office? Can you believe that?
Well, he's continuously defended that that decision was taken before the crisis period. And so it's not as though it's misplaced priority.
It's neither here nor there. You could have been planning to host a lavish 50th birthday celebration. If a year to the celebration, or in the year of the celebration, unfortunately, you run into economic difficulties, I mean, who will continue with those elaborate plans to have those lavish parties when you haven't paid your children's school fees? You probably owe your landlord, you haven't paid rent. There are essentials that you can't take care of. Then you say because you had planned this 10 years ago, 15 years ago, 20 years ago, so you are going ahead. Who does that? I don't want to use some kind of language, but we all know how we would describe such a person if it happened in real life. Now, this is exactly what has happened at the central bank. And you see, I have intercepted documents which I have put out. Even with this Bank of Ghana project, look at the scandals associated with it. The Public Procurement Authority had approved $81 million. That was the central bank's own budget, $81 million. In less than 8 months, that project spiraled out of control to $121 million. Less than a year, as we speak, the latest documents we have intercepted, that project, without the land is another scandal on its own. Just the fiscal construction, $227 million. Can you believe that? From $81 million to $227 million. And if you read the Central Tender Review Committee's assessment of this project, very damning. The Central Tender Review Committee has said that this governor engaged in all of these illegal variations, started construction, went ahead to implement the illegality before he came to them for approval. Incredible. So you have yes, that is what the Central Tender Review Committee said, and I'll read portions of that to you in a jiffy. So you have a governor of the central bank who has been very reckless, very lawless, and the impact of his lawlessness and illegalities are that so many livelihoods have been destroyed. Apart from the 50,000 job losses in the banking and financial sector, the World Bank estimates that some 850,000 people, 850,000 Ghanaians, I mean, think about it, almost 1 million Ghanaians have been pushed into the poverty zone because of the impact of this governor's recklessness. I mean, when inflation skyrockets, hyperinflation in excess of 50%, you know the implications, you know what that means to purchasing power and all of that. So this is a central bank governor who should not be pushed out. If he had any respect for the Ghanaian people, and if his conscience really sits well with him, he should have resigned long ago. That is what you have seen governors in other jurisdictions do. I mean, the Jamaican governor who resigned some years ago, things were not this bad. Say same for the Greece governor. It's just that in this part of the world, people don't man up, they don't take responsibility, and they always try to pass the buck and disrespect the masses and the people who are their employers. So let me come to the demonstration. Now, we had served notice many weeks ago. Remember all the attempts to frustrate us, and I must commend the demonstrators for being so peaceful. If you read some of the reasons that the police cited in court, very ridiculous reasons, that the demonstration will be violent, it potentially can lead to a coup, all kinds of ridiculous things, and that the court should stop us from embarking on that demonstration. I'm glad that the...
That's what the police said in court?
Yes, in court, if you read their sworn affidavit. Now, the Ghanaian people have shown that, look, if there are any group of people we should rather be concerned about, we should be worried about, it is the few in leadership who are running down this country, who are engaged in levels of looting unseen before in our country's history. So I am glad that the demonstration passed off very peacefully. Everybody was well behaved. No properties were destroyed, and it was incident free. Now, we had served notice that the petition will be delivered to the governor or his two deputies. So certainly, you can understand why we refuse to present the petition, especially as we already had planned that this demonstration will be a series of demonstrations, because we know that when you have a governor who is determined to cling on to power. Remember, we gave him 21 days to resign. He flatly refused. He's still at post. So it's going to take quite some effort and a really big push to oust him. So we said that we will not present the petition. We won't hand it over to the persons he sent. Our leader, the Honorable Atufosin, spoke on our behalf very clearly that we will be back and that we expect that he will take the Ghanaian people seriously. It is the Ghanaian people he is serving, not some foreigners or some IMF or some external body.
Okay, so
his obligation is to the Ghanaian people.
So even prior to the day of the demonstration, you had already planned that this was going to be a series of protests. So even if the governor has showed up or if any of his two deputies has showed up and received your petition, you would have still organized a few more demonstrations?
Yes, definitely. If after receiving the petition a number of days we notice they are still at post, we will have returned to the central bank. Because that's why we tagged the whole protest Occupy Bank of Ghana. So we are determined to occupy the central bank until this governor leaves. Look, let's not downplay the impact of this man's bad decisions, terrible policies, and of course, working in cahoots with the finance minister, the vice president, who is the chair of the so-called solid economic management team. These days, you don't hear them talk about solid team any longer. I don't know if it's become a liquefied team, you know. So these people have destroyed lives. They've destroyed livelihoods. You have senior citizens of our country who can't even have access to their life savings. Can you believe that? The last time you saw how for more than 10 days, senior citizens who should be enjoying their retirement peacefully had to picket the finance ministry. I'm glad that our brother Martin Kpebu is here, who speaks for one of the groups. He will tell you their ordeals. Look, some people have died. Some people are hospitalized just because they can't have access to medication. These people have lived a very decent, responsible life. They have saved. They believe that as for government securities, it is virtually risk-free. That's the best place to save your money, to invest your money. And then money that they have worked for, they can have access to it. For the first time in our country's history, we are hearing about debt restructuring, financial haircuts. Meanwhile, the people who are imposing these decisions, have you gone through the Bank of Ghana's financial statement, his expenditure pattern? $2 million on gold watches at the time people were in crisis. Can you believe that? Travels were more than 200% higher than the previous year, in a crisis year. In a crisis year. Can you believe that? He spends over 70 million cedis on travels. Have you seen how much was spent on vehicle maintenance? 131 million, more than 280%.
Said they have a large fleet.
Look, 131 million Ghana cedis can buy you a fleet of new vehicles. That is what they spend on just maintenance. Have you seen communication?
$2 million on gold.
Gold, yes. Oh, you didn't read the financial statement.
It's actually
the watches.
Yes, gold watches, $2 million. Can you believe that? That they bought for themselves. Good question. What has that got to do with banking? $2 million. It's all there. 131 million cedis on car maintenance, 30 million on communications. You remember when we asked for a breakdown, they said, oh, they even tried to rob in journalists, that when they engage journalists, 30 million cedis. A lot of journalists have been speaking of that, hey, please, leave us out. 30 million, and then now they have added that they also bought some software for their computers, and they changed computers to laptops, and all kinds of cock and bull stories. Look, the auditors, if you read page 86 of the financial statement, the auditors, Deloitte, criticized the central bank for hiding their capital expenditure. And you know how much they discovered? 711 million Ghana cedis is what they had spent on reckless capital expenditure in a crisis year, which include payments for the head office and then regional offices. Do you know they have remodeled their regional offices? Building new regional offices at this time in a crisis period. So don't even fall for this falsehood that they started these projects in good times. It is not true. I have put out the EI, which was used to compulsorily acquire that land, which they should not have gone near anyway. That is land under litigation. That is land somebody has used for a loan. Very soon, they are in court. Very soon, we would have to pay the cost of the land.
The previously owned SIC.
Yes, which somebody had used for a loan from Ivory Finance, and all those parties are in court. So potentially,
there was an executive instrument.
Yes.
For the Bank of Ghana to
dated 12 October 2020. So again, when they tell you that we started this project long before 2020, was there no COVID? Haven't we started the economic decline? You know, so it is not true that this project started in good times many years ago. It is not true. They secured the land October 2020. COVID has started in March 2020. People were dying. Our president himself had told us in the national address that he knows how to bring back the economy, but does not know how to revive lives. So his focus is on managing the pandemic, addressing the public health crisis, making sure that we all stay alive. All other projects have been suspended, have been put on the back burner, unknown to us. And you see, this is even where we have to spend some time. How all of these things are done on the blind side of Parliament, on the blind side of the Ghanaian people. And I am glad that one of the conditionalities for this current IMF program is reviewing the law. Because what makes these governors think that they are a god unto themselves is the so-called autonomy, the so-called independence, where they take these decisions. Will you believe, as a member of Parliament, at no point in time did they discuss with us any of these major expenditure items that has far-reaching implications? Look, if you look at this head office project, you add the cost of land, we are talking about $300 million. Imagine what $300 million can do. Just imagine.
See,
you know, so look, this central bank, and Alfred, let me conclude on this point, that fortunately, international news confirms that in other jurisdictions, bad governors have been dealt with or are being dealt with. Governors shouldn't think that they are immune from accountability. Go to Nigeria next door. Their former central bank governor is in detention. He is being prosecuted for all kinds of crimes. Go to Lebanon. The Lebanese governor thought he could divert $300 million into his personal accounts. He has been found out. As we speak, the international community has blacklisted him. He cannot travel to the US, he cannot travel to Canada, he cannot travel to the UK. His assets are being frozen. The former governor of the Lebanon Central Bank. Go to Slovakia. The Slovakia former governor has been indicted. He has been prosecuted and convicted for bribery. So if you look at what has happened in the international space this year alone, this governor should not think that he can get away with his crimes and all the atrocities, the pain that he has caused Ghanaians, the destruction of lives. He will not get away. And he rather is calling demonstrators hooligans. I mean, hooligans. Look, the right to demonstrate, is a constitutional right. It's guaranteed. I can decide that I want to demonstrate, or I want to sign signatures, or I want to picket, or I want to do a sit-down strike. These are all democratic tools, public manifestations that I am entitled to. It is not for anybody to look at us, thousands of demonstrators. You even forget about the NDC MPs and say you hate us because you don't belong to our party. The thousands who showed up for this demonstration, who are victims of your abysmal performance, why are you insulting them? Why are you calling them hooligans? I mean, how dare you? Meanwhile, the person who appoints you, who you accepted his appointment, what is his rise to fame? As a member of parliament, was he not leader of many demonstrations? So you are logically telling us that President Akufo-Addo is a hooligan, and you are the appointee of a hooligan. What does that make you? So you see, look, the arrogance of power must stop, and people must show us with respect.
You have a strategy for him when Parliament resumes. It's something that I would want to find out that strategy is. But let me welcome as well Richard Ahiagba. He is Director of Communications of the NPP. Mr. Ahiagba, good morning. Welcome.
Good morning, sir.
Okay. Professor Godfred Bopkin, now one of the reactions after this demonstration on Tuesday, when the governor of the central bank granted this interview to the International Business Magazine, Central Banking, apart from calling or referring the protesters, describing them as doing hooliganism, sort of. He says the impairment of the bank's holdings of debt, I quote, which led to the losses was a conditionality from the IMF. Nobody at the Bank of Ghana forgive any debt. And we have that. We'll put that on the screen shortly. Will this statement suffice in any analysis and contextualization of the facts of where the Bank of Ghana finds itself in now?
Yeah, thank you very much. Certainly not. Certainly not. It cannot. And I think that the more Bank of Ghana tries to explain itself, the more they make the issues a bit more difficult for themselves, right? So I think the earlier we accept responsibility, the earlier we say that, look, we could do better and we should do better, it will be good for all of us. The reason I'm saying so has context in terms of the magnitude of the losses we are dealing with. But I have the confidence in putting this across because since 1992, you see a certain pattern of central bank activities that enables the deterioration in our economy. You see it. I could give you the data, but I'll deal with this and then probably I'll support my argument with some historical data. What I am calling for, what I'm asking for, or I'm hoping for, is a certain nationalistic posture now that helps us to reform in a manner that prevents the occurrence of things like this. That's the only way Ghana's democracy can have a future. Because when it comes to net claims against the government or deficit financing, you see it across the two main political parties. It's very persistent. Okay, it's very persistent. If you look at the data from 2008, in fact, actually, since Ghana started inflation targeting unofficially March 2002, and then officially 2007, one key condition for the effectiveness of inflation targeting as a monetary policy framework is fiscal discipline. Is fiscal discipline. If you deny the central bank fiscal discipline, there is no way they can deploy monetary policy effectively to bring down inflation and engineer growth. Since 2002, March 2002, when we started inflation targeting, you see this pattern of deficit financing. In between 2008 and 2012, 2013, if you look at the level of deficit financing, essentially equivalent to money printing, it went up by more than 650%. From roughly around 1.5 billion cedis to a little above 11 billion cedis towards 2013. Actually, the current vice president, and this is what makes it a bit more interesting for me, and I'm saying that we can bury our political differences and look at Ghana from a common view that allows democracy to work for the ordinary Ghanaian. Our current vice president, when he was in opposition, gave a presentation on restoring the value of the city. We couldn't have gotten it better than that. In that presentation, our vice president was very clear. The implications of the deficit financing. At that time, the Bank of Ghana Act stipulated a deficit financing of 10% of government previous year's fiscal revenue, total revenue. According to the data that the vice president then put forward, the deficit financing was in excess of about 45% in 2013, about 36% in 2013, and then 45% in 2012. Now, when we went to the Senchi consensus in 2014,
right,
one of the things that was identified was the deficit financing, because it's very clear. Once you do the monetization of the deficit, and currently we're also talking about monetization of the public debt, the unexpected inflationary pressures will no longer be unexpected. Okay. Now, in this current regime, unfortunately, and my considered view is that with the level of expertise and knowledge and understanding of our economy and the role the central bank has played, one would have expected that this current government would do far better. But it's actually been made worse. It's been made worse. So now look at it this way. In the wisdom of Parliament, given that the excessive financing of the deficit poses threats to the economy as a whole, Parliament puts in a clause, a limit to how far the central bank can go. Then it was 10%. The 16th IMF supported program that kicked in from April 3rd, 2015 to April 2019 clearly identified the fiscal dominance of monetary policy. It's the same thing, it's just terminology we are changing. The fiscal dominance of monetary policy was one of the key drivers of the macroeconomic instability. What was the IMF's response? Zero financing of the deficit. So one of the program objectives of that IMF supported program was elimination of the fiscal dominance of monetary policy. I'm saying this so that we understand that as a country, we don't learn. We don't learn the lessons. The abuse only gets worse and worse and worse. Ghana has no future if we continue like this. So we did that. We came to the IMF implemented the zero financing. And in fact, it was one of the effective means of dragging down inflation. You eliminate the fiscal dominance of monetary policy, you curtail the deficit financing, you begin to see that inflation will head downwards. It's quite consistent with the theory. And here is validated by practice. Okay. Then in amending the Bank of Ghana Act, Parliament considered that, and we agreed with them, that as a country, we cannot do without some level of deficit financing from the central bank.
Mm-hmm.
We cannot. Because as a central bank, at some point, they also embrace a certain developmental posture. It's good. So we cannot keep to zero financing consistently. And from that perspective, we disagree with the IMF that zero financing is the way out. But it's a temporary measure. Yes, we can accommodate that. So Parliament reduced the deficit financing from 10% to 5%. So under the current regime, it's 5%. Now, look at the interesting thing. We understand shocks. We are not discounting that. In the wisdom of Parliament, in the the COVID-19 crisis, we also saw the wisdom in suspending the Fiscal Responsibility Act, because the Fiscal Responsibility Act had also placed a limit on deficit creation. That's quite interesting, because it's the budget deficit that fuels borrowing, because the fiscal deficit is an indication of the borrowing requirement of the government. So in the wisdom of Parliament, reduce the budget deficit to 5% of GDP.
Mm-hmm.
Now, given the effect of COVID, Parliament suspended the Fiscal Responsibility Act. I am not a lawyer. It is not my considered view that Bank of Ghana could hide under that and print in excess of the 5% in their own act. Because if the mere suspension of the Fiscal Responsibility Act necessarily does not give Bank of Ghana the room to exceed or disobey its own act. We need to look at it from that perspective. Now, if you look at the level of fiscal, the deficit financing Bank of Ghana has done, in as much as there's scope for exceeding the 5%, you clearly see abuse.
Where is the abuse? Point it out to me.
In terms of the extent of the deficit financing and the lack of disclosure around it. And that does not lend to prudence, that does not lend to technical and professionalism. Now, look, if you look at the auditor's report, the audit opinion in the Bank of Ghana's annual report and financial statement, you will see clearly that the level of reservations that the audit firm had, you will see it. You just read through carefully, and then you see the level of reservation. Now, To say that is the IMF that prescribed this is to say that it's not so much about the cure now, it's about the cause. It's about the cause. We worked ourselves into this. You know, the real thing we need to understand is that the more we do these things, the more we give the impression that we are incapable of managing our affairs as a country. Why would IMF give Bank of Ghana an advisor? For what reason? For what reason? So, from a professional and technical point of view, Bank of Ghana's performance was suboptimal. It's not good enough. Now, let me also give you some other insight here. The explanations the central bank gives, the more you look at it, the more you become a bit more concerned. If, as at the end of 2019, 2020, the central bank claims that if they had known that this economy was going to be here or head in this direction, they wouldn't have started the project. That is unacceptable for me. Look, the Ministry of Finance, their own internal debt sustainability analysis after 2019 clearly had indicated that Ghana's public debt was unsustainable. 2019, you can check. The IMF's final review as part of our exit of the 16th IMF program, it was clear in that IMF document that Ghana could not achieve debt sustainability, which was actually one of the program objectives. We could not. So we exited the IMF program with debt unsustainability still hanging on us. We were still placed at a high risk of debt distress. It's a country which we officially entered in 2014. As a medium debt carrying country, that was where we were placed. That position was affirmed. Look, so you see, the point is that there are certain positions that should take more responsibility than others. One of those institutions is the central bank. Now, if as at 2019, Bank of Ghana's own projections and the rest of them could not have warned us that this is where we're heading towards, then I think we should feel sorry for this country.
Why?
We should feel sorry for this country. Now, if you look at it from 2020, and it was very clear to us, this thing is not like we are boasting. Look, we did a presentation somewhere in 2019, and Bank of Ghana had a representation there. And when we did the public debt sustainability analysis, this was 2019, we demonstrated that Ghana was heading dangerously. This was 2019. The response from the central bank was that our model was wrong. We can go into that later.
They questioned your model.
Yes.
On the basis of what exactly? What was their own stance or explanation that the model you used in 2019 indicating that our debts were unsustainable was wrong, which eventually came to pass, by the way?
Because they said we had market access, they were using different model and all of that. Look, it was clear to us that it was just a matter of time and Ghana will be priced out of the market. The point that I'm saying is that, look, let's get serious. These numbers we are talking about here, if you lift the veil, is life. We are talking about life. We are talking about health. We are talking about social cohesion. We are talking about, so these things, we need to look at them from that perspective. Now, to say impairment, to say technical losses, look, Bank of Ghana's haircut is beyond just impairment, which is an accounting issue. There is a haircut on principal that is never going to be paid back. We should understand that the central bank is the lender of last resort. Now, Alfred, look at it this way. In this current debt crisis, it's not only Ghana. Other countries are also walking into it quite fast now, right? The IMF and the World Bank and the multilateral institutions have come together to say that their debt is not open for restructuring in accordance with best practices. Because as the IMF and the World Bank and the rest of them, they are the lender of last resort, and therefore their balance sheet should be preserved. Ideally, our central bank within our context is also the lender of last resort. What I'm saying is that if the central bank had been a bit moderate and prudent, the level of losses that would have been accommodated on their balance sheet would have been lower than what it is now. And that is where the emphasis should be. That as a central bank, they failed to protect that institution and to preserve its balance sheet. This posture over the years, that makes it look as though the central bank is too powerful to be accountable. I think we need to move beyond that. We need to move beyond that.
So also, as it stands now, the Bank of Ghana, if I'm reading the auditors, that's Deloitte's, the report you made specific reference to of the Bank of Ghana's financials as at the end of 2022, clearly the crisis is evident and they have to be recapitalized by government. Government is also facing its own crisis situation. What then happens?
That is precisely the point. You don't run your central bank to that point. You don't do that. From a technical and professional point of view, you don't do that. The way our constitution is designed, the way our democracy is designed, is such that there are certain institutions that have been guaranteed certain autonomy, right, to also act as checks and balances. It cannot be, and it should not be, that the governor of Bank of Ghana will literally be at the beck and call of the finance minister. There is supposed to be some level of separation between the fiscal and then the monetary, so that monetary policy doesn't become subordinate to fiscal. When it happens that way, there is no way, because it takes the two. These are the two main economic command centers, the fiscal and the monetary, to some extent also acting as checks and balances. That is why you see Bank of Ghana's Act. And I want to believe that if we were to seek an interpretation from the Supreme Court, the Supreme Court will be mindful to maintain the operational independence of the central bank. It's an institution, so that we don't, the politics of things doesn't cannibalize the central bank the way we have seen. Other than that, as a country, we cannot make progress. We cannot.
Professor Godfrey Aboagye, thank you very much on this. Let me come back in studio. And Mr. Agba, having listened to this analysis, and in fact, that was one of the fundamental reasons why the protesters were on the streets, by the way, that because of the decisions taken, which has resulted in the Bank of Ghana's current state of affairs, the governor, based on accountability, must go. In fact, if you look at the Bank of Ghana's own website on the statement of the Bank of Ghana 2022 financial statement, it says that the reported loss of a total of 60 billion cedis, it's of noteworthy that 53.1 billion of the said 60 billion cedis loss were a direct result of the government's domestic debt restructuring exercise phase 1 and 2, which the Bank of Ghana had to also take a chunk, in fact, a bigger haircut. The concerns of the protesters, and by and large, we're talking about the Ghanaians who hit the streets, was that this has resulted in hardship. So there must be some sense of accountability. That should be of concern to you as well, is it not?
Well, Alfred, thank you very much. And I want to say a very good morning to my senior colleagues here on the platform. There's a lot, I've been making a lot of notes, Alfred.
Yes.
I was in the UK, I got back 2 days ago, I think, on on my way, I was having a conversation with a group of people, and at the conference where I was, there was conversation about global economic situations. And Alfred, before I go to answering the question, I want to just lament a situation that I guess as a country we need to probably take a second look at, is the way we frame our conversations in the media or our political debates. Elsewhere, the conversation that are being had about national development and issues that are rising out of the global economic situation we're enduring is in the nature of what the solutions are that governments are proposing. So if you were in the UK where I was, the Prime Minister has a 5-point plan to deal with the issues that confront the country emanating from the challenges that came from COVID and the Russia-Ukraine war. And the debate in the country is about whether or not those 5-point plans that he has put forth, a typical one that we are debating here is to halve inflation, whether or not those proposals are working. That's the nature of the debate. But unfortunately, in our own country, the conversation is rather regressive. The conversation is not progressive.
How exactly do you describe these conversations we're having as regressive?
Well, I'm coming to that. Our conversation is not focused on the solution going forward. It is rather in the nature of denying the problem that has happened and therefore say that nothing has happened. We're just living in good time and somehow the economy is not being managed well. I have just shown you a contrast, and you're a journalist and you should pay attention to that. That if we are having a conversation and your primary interest should be about your viewers, to say that I want to bring a certain conversation to my viewers, who are voters in the end, to make a decision based on policy, based on capacity of one party or the other to govern Ghana appropriately. And so in that context, I will guide the conversation on the issue, not just an incitement and blame conversation, which is the balance of what we have here. And you have a difficulty to guide that conversation because if you have an NDC who has no alternative to offer, okay, and you have a general population who has been thrown into it, so please, I would appreciate if you can just quit the smiling whilst I present myself. I beg you, with respect.
So, Ms. Anwa, even before you proceed,
with respect,
yes.
I think it's discourteous when he continues to do that.
So,
I want to be very clear about that.
That established.
There's nothing right about that. I beg you.
Okay, I just want to. Hold on.
No. I mean, it's intentional, and I beg you. See,
okay,
I beg you.
Let's not get.
Now,
I think that as you have made this point about how you think that this conversation should go, I also, because you made reference to me paying attention to that, I also want to put it on record that we also decide what exactly the end objective of this conversation should be.
That's okay.
And that is in the interest of the Ghanaian people.
Very well.
You would disagree with how the conversation goes. But the point
Alfred,
is,
I'm not calling
respect, I think I just wanted to put it on record,
well.
that however the conversation is structured, it is in the interest of the Ghanaian people. Yes, divergent views and opinions. But then again, you cannot, with all due respect, question how I direct this conversation.
That's okay. So it's okay. That's common knowledge. But what I'm telling you is that I'm giving you context.
We must understand where we are coming from.
It's okay.
Before we even know how we're going to get to the solution.
I don't know where you're coming from. I don't know where you're coming from. Hold on. I don't know where you're coming from. You have invited me, so allow me to speak, okay? I don't know where you're coming from because the objective of journalism, one is to bear testimony to the fact, okay? So and to hold on one second, please. Okay. Please hold on 1 second. Okay. I appreciate the quiet so I can do my presentation. I beg you. To bear testimony to the fact and also to hold authority to account. But then you have to frame the conversation in ways that tease out the facts. And I just told you the context in the global situation. We're always learning and growing. And I think that when you have as your practice, you will defer and learn from best practices.
What I'm telling you is that this country,
I beg you.
with all due respect, I think you keep questioning how I do my job.
Just hold on.
No, if you question how I do my job, I will not allow you to continuously.
So you don't want me to speak anymore?
No, not at all.
Okay,
what I'm saying is,
stop interrupting me. All I'm doing, Alfred, is to show you how it's done elsewhere and how we are doing it. And let me conclude. I haven't even concluded anything. I'm only telling you what is done elsewhere, which is that they are focused on how we are moving on as a government. What is the government proposition to solve the problem? That has happened to the global economy, the war, and the COVID-19. Now, they are focused on the solution. But here, we are focused on denying that that has happened. And I'm saying that, take a look at that and see if that works for you. Because ultimately, what your commitment should be is to your viewers to say that, am I presenting a balanced conversation to them so they are making a decision? I am not making a judgment call on what you're doing. It's not a value judgment I'm making. I'm only telling you that there's one perspective out there which I find to be progressive, and there's another which is what we're doing. And I think that we should, learn and improve. And anything to say that grow and learn and improve, suggesting to us that we cannot be stagnant, I don't think that is a criticism.
Let me also suggest
an
to
option
you,
that I'm giving you. By the way, let me move on.
You have made that point, and I'll give you all the time to move on.
Very well.
If you make reference to the UK, there's a publication specifically on the BBC on the 16th of August 2023. Did you know that there was a demonstration in the UK as well about the state of the economy? I'm coming.
I'll come to that. I'm not mentioning
and you
that.
see, well, you can't pick and choose. No. If you're making reference to what's happening on the other side. Now, do you also know that as early as 2 days ago, there was a conversation about how the UK's economy got to this point, even before talking about the 5-point objectives that this government or the UK government wants to put across? We must understand what got us to this point.
Yeah.
That is also a matter of conversation of importance for the Ghanaian people to know exactly why we got here. And then we can interrogate what is being done. If you listen to the two persons who have spoken,
I don't get it. Once you give me a chance, let me speak. You can come in after,
because you have made your point.
Create a situation where anytime an MPP person is speaking, then you take this question.
I'm going to allow you.
I'm going to
allow you to speak. I'm going to allow you to speak. I'm only stating specifically what you make reference to.
I just made, Alfred, you cannot say that you are the fountain of wisdom, and so therefore in journalism you have no space for advice. I'm only telling you that what I observe is useful. Can you just observe it? I'm not telling you you have or you don't have that knowledge. I'm just saying that there's a perspective. Let's learn from that period. I'm not criticizing you or anything, okay? Demonstrations are there, but the point is that we are stuck in a conversation that is going nowhere. People denying vehemently, and the media is ceding to that position to say that we got here by somebody's mismanagement, which is not factual. The position is going forward. We need to talk and interrogate the solutions, how we get out of the situation. And that's where you would want the NDC come to the table with their alternative offering, and we show you what we have brought, which is the post-COVID recovery program that we are putting forward. That should be the content of the conversation. But that is set aside, and we are stuck and mired in a conversation backward about what has happened. I'll read that statement to you before then I proceed. Okay? It's an IMF document, and I'll give it to you, and this was published in July 2022 regarding the global economic situation and what has happened. And maybe when I give it to you, you can read it for all of us to hear, but I'll just read a portion that I think is significant for your viewers. And it describes the global situation that we're in.
Okay.
And so Yeah.
While you do that, a quick original question.
In your copy so you can read it. It says, description. The war in Ukraine has triggered a costly humanitarian crisis that demand a peaceful resolution. At the same time, economic damage from the conflict will contribute to a significant slowdown in global growth in 2022 and add to inflation. Fuel and food prices have increased rapidly, hitting vulnerable population in low-income countries hardest. You just heard my good brother refer to people being launched into poverty in this country. These are the facts. Global growth is projected to slow down from an estimated 6.1% in 2001 to 3.6% in 2022 and 2023. This is 0.8 and 0.2 percentage points lower than for 2022 and 2023 projected earlier in January. Beyond 2023, global growth is forecasted to decline. We're in 2023. Growth is forecasted to decline about 3.3% over the medium term. War-induced commodity prices and broadening price pressures have led to 2022 inflation projection of 5.7% in advanced economies and 8.7% in emerging market and developing economies. That is a slowdown, an increase of 1.8 and 2.8 percentage points higher than projected last January.
Okay.
So the point I'm trying to make to you is that we are in a situation. That situation has brought about a global difficulty. Now, the problem is, one, accepting the challenge. Once you accept the challenge, then you are looking at how we are getting out of the situation. And that, for me, is the conversation we have, and which was the point I was making to you. I
made specific reference to what the Bank of Ghana itself, the Bank
I
of Ghana
will answer the question.
Indicated.
When you get to the point you are getting to, you fall prey of what proverb the account people have and say, you understand? You are getting to a point where you are trying to deal with other issues apart from the causal issues. We want to deal with the causes of the matter. The cause of the matter must be dealt with. Otherwise, there was no need to even deal with the situation to begin with. If the situation was not brought about, you will not be needing the remedies that you are trying to look for.
So you're talking about what led to the domestic debt exchange program?
Sorry?
What led to the DDEP?
The DDEP is not in isolation because, let me just answer for you. See, and this is why, Alfred, we need to contextualize the conversation properly. Because
what is the context?
Yes, I'll give it to you. So this government took over in 2017, January 7, took over a declining economy. That year, at the end of that fiscal year, the economy grew by 8.2%. Subsequent to that, the economy grew in 2019 by 6.2%. 6.5% again in 2019. Average 7% in 3 years. Then there's a disruption in 2020. Then the economy didn't grow, and it grew very about 0.4% in 2020. Compared to the 3 years, you are able to then explain the 2020 performance in terms of what happened.
2020 performance of what?
Of the economy. No. Okay? And alongside, all the macroeconomic indicators were aligned before that. Inflation of a single digit at the time. Okay? So if you don't take that journey and you just arrive here to say that why should the Bank of Ghana do A, B, C, D, you will not be having an honest conversation. So the storyline must follow. The narrative must be clear. So why we are here, why the country we are here, is one, because of the disruption of COVID-19, which we refuse, some people in this country refuse to accept. And that, for me, is misinformation to the public to say that COVID didn't impact our economy, because I just read to you the actual information. I think that we should do the honest thing of educating the public, right?
So do you
I just read to you an IMF document that tells you about the global economic situation exacerbated by the war in Ukraine. So that is fact.
Okay. I don't know if you did listen to Professor Godfrey Bokeng. Yeah. You know that one of the reasons why we're at this point is our high debt to GDP.
But you see...
You know, I'm coming to... You know that, right? Correct?
But the question, Alfred, is that you get to that point. You get...
No, please. So you understand
because
that it's
because... Alfred, you see, it is a convenient conversation to have, to say that it is debt to GDP ratio. And I'm asking you, what is the full story?
I'm only telling... I made reference
here,
to that.
Professor Jampo is a researcher. He does analysis because your analysis must follow from a place. You cannot have analysis in a vacuum. So what is the basis for the high debt to GDP ratio that we're having? The sudden situation...
Prior to COVID-19,
yes,
which hit the economy in 2020, as far back as 2019, our debt was prescribed as unsustainable.
Yes, I heard Professor Bokpin, and I was coming to that. You see, so when Professor Bokpin said that the Bank of Ghana said their model was not correct, and therefore they had a different projection, and Alfred, I'm surprised why that would be lost on you. Because they were making this analysis in 2019. Is that not the case? So I'm making analysis in 2019. What has changed in 2020? What changed? What changed? COVID happened.
What changed?
COVID happened. And at the time they were modeling, that model did not take into account the exigencies.
You see, the projection was not because we were going to get into the situation without COVID-19. In 2019, if you read the report, and I'll make it available to you,
No
I'm
problem.
sure you haven't
I've read
seen
the report anyway, so don't worry
Professor
about it.
Godfrey Bopking and the others' report, that indicated clearly that we were heading towards a particular direction. COVID-19 came to just exacerbate the situation. You made reference to the bank.
Not exacerbate it.
The IMF.
It disrupted the path of growth.
The IMF document that also talks about the Ghana situation, because you read an IMF document that prescribes the problem for the general global economy.
Right.
Here's what the IMF says about the Ghana situation. And I know you have a copy of that statement, that there were
Alfred, I'll appreciate if you just let me just speak.
I'm asking you a question. Everybody who spoke, I ask questions.
I have a story. Maybe,
they said
Alfred,
there were inherent internal weaknesses already in the economy.
Yeah.
You acknowledge that.
Alfred, just allow me, just like you have done everybody else, allow me, just as you have allowed everybody else to speak, maybe I'll answer your question in the process, okay? When I finish, I don't think I've answered your question, you can raise it. So the point I am making to you, Alfred, is that we're having a conversation today about a Bank of Ghana that has come through a process that is external to it, a situation that had worsened its planning and policy positions. So it cannot be correct that in 2019, what the conversation was and the disagreement with Professor Bokpin and his group's presentation is something that to say today that the Bank of Ghana rather is wrong, because we know the environment has changed and has changed so drastically. And I just read to you evidence that is the change is not only in Ghana, the change is across board. And so the difficulties we have now, we must appreciate in context. And that's why I told you, because otherwise we'll be going back and forth like this if we are not discussing the solution. First, we have to accept the problem. And then people, a problem once understood is half solved. So we haven't, as a people, haven't appreciated the conversation of the issue around which we're having a conversation. And so we go back and forth. Now, the presentation of my good brother has all been about incitement. It's only saying government has bought watch and this expenditure and all of that. They, in the history of this country, have performed the worst when it comes to economy. In good time. I don't know if my good brother and the NDC can tell me that when they took this economy in 2009, there was a crisis proportional to COVID-19. There was a crisis in this world proportional to the worsening of the economic situation by Russia, Ukraine. Unless we begin to appreciate and have the honest conversation, we'll go back and forth, everybody will be speaking English, and in the end we'll just leave. The point is that the NDC, having performed abysmally, the verdict card showed over 1 million people rejected them. That is not the same situation today. And I am very particular about this because, Alfred, if we don't have the proper conversation...
what's the point exactly you made?
The point is that we have gotten here because of massive external difficulty. which is affecting not only Ghana. And I read that statement to you as proof, and I'm going to read other documents to you that talks about other central banks that are in the same situation. Because when the conversation is going, they don't tell you about those things. That the several other central banks are in perhaps worse situation than we are in.
For instance?
Okay. For instance, I'll tell you about the bank of the Federal Bank of the United States.
The Federal Bank of the United States?
Yes, yes. It's in
the Federal Bank of the United States?
Yeah, the U.S. Central Bank. The U.S. Central Bank.
What have they done?
Alfred, I just told you, allow me my presentation and stop the interjection.
No, quote the specific laws they posted, and I'll tell you.
I'm not saying laws. I'm saying the bank is in a situation. Alfred.
What situation is that?
Okay. The central bank in the United States is running high deficits, or less running high debt. And in that situation, hold on.
No, I haven't spoken.
Yeah, hold on. And so they recorded in 2022 a loss of 37 billion. Okay?
The Federal Reserve?
I'll give you the document to look at. This is not something that.
Now, what document are you quoting from exactly?
I've read. This is facts that is available. You can reference. So just allow me to make the point. Just hold on.
I'm not speaking. I'm specifically asking you which document you are quoting from that the Federal Reserve of the United States posted this amount of loss. I'm just asking.
Alfred, just allow me to present the facts to you. Okay.
You are saying facts.
But you can just easily go to their website and find out.
I'm asking you the source of the document that you are posting,
please,
and you're asking me about the fact. I'm saying, what's the source of the document that
go to the Federal Reserve website. You can find it.
No, but you copied it from a source.
Yeah, because of course this is my own paper that I'm printed on.
So what's the source? Where did you get it?
I just showed you. Go to their website. Oh, you don't want to go to their website, Alfred?
No, because you can just tell me that it's the Federal Reserve's website. But
yes,
I'm telling
that's what I'm saying.
I go onto the Federal Reserve's website.
Yeah.
That over $30 billion.
37
billion loss that you quoted.
Mm-hmm.
As stated here, does not refer to it as a result of losses incurred based on financing government's instruments or projects.
What does it say?
In COVID. What does your document say?
Alfred, I think you are trying to deviate the conversation.
Oh, no.
If the thing is there, then whatever the explanation is it a debt or it's not a debt?
The circumstances that led to the debt are very different things.
I'm saying that, is it a debt or it's not a debt?
Okay.
Is it a debt? I am telling you about the European Central Bank. Okay? I'm telling you also about the Reserve Bank of Australia.
What have they done?
They're also incurring losses. The central bank. I mean, I don't know why you are acting as if you don't know these facts. The Swiss bank, the Swiss National Bank, also declared earlier that it was going to post in excess of 132 billion Swiss francs in debt. The central bank situation, I'm telling you. And then the Netherlands Central Bank also indicated that it was going to post in 2023 about 9 billion debt. Okay? So what I'm trying to paint for you, I don't know what you're trying to do there, but these are facts you can just verify online. You have a computer before you can just Google and find them. All right? But these are not secrets, Alfred. I'm just surprised how you are acting. But these are facts, and your viewers can just check online and find it. Okay? So the point I am trying to make to you is that the Bank of Ghana is not acting in isolation, or is not in this situation as though that individuals at the Bank of Ghana had intentionally mismanaged the economy.
Okay.
Now, you referenced Professor Bokpin earlier when he was speaking, and he told you about why the central bank financing was amended. It was in a situation, and he made a point about fiscal dominance at the time that occasioned that matter.
Okay.
Now, you have the NDC sitting at the table posturing piously as though that they are the managers or the best managers of the economy. And that's why I was careful to say that in the history of this Fourth Republic, if you are looking for the worst managers of the economy, it is the NDC. Now, the situation we are in, Alfred, as a government, we have acknowledged the challenge, but it is not for want of capacity. It is not for want of competence or for lack of competence that we are in this situation. It is because we as a people and as an economy, as the world, have been thrust into an economic situation that is difficult for everyone. Earlier you talked about the demonstration in the UK. When I went to the UK, I arrived on Sunday, the trains were on, the following day the trains were on strike. And for the period that I was there, the train riders were demonstrating to the point, even the Prime Minister, in his statement, had to acknowledge that those strikes are no longer about pay, but they are about politics. If you read his speech, you see that this is the situation that we're getting to. So in other words, the NDC demonstration, which for me is unfortunate and is pointless.
Okay.
Is pointless because it's not about the issues, it's about politics. And my pain, Alfred, right, and which is the basis for which I think that as a people we need to contextualize the conversation properly, is that we're almost creating a situation where NDC is taking undue advantage. Because one, they cannot demonstrate the situation we're in. They will have alternatives, or they could have managed it better because we know their record. Ghana would have been in a big mess if the NDC were in charge. Well, and so,
thank you.
No, please, Alfred, you interrupted me so much, so just allow me to make my point. And I think that, Alfred, please.
I asked a question.
Alfred, no, please.
And you've...
Alfred,
just round it up for me.
You have interrupted me so much.
So round it up for me.
Okay, very well. Yes. I think you can do that. The point I am making to you is that the NDC is taking a certain posture. And the only way we can get this conversation, if our pursuit is to inform the public and not to misinform them. Because I want to let you know that the conversations we're having are leading to misinforming the public because the context is not fully defined. That the NDC can't sit at the table after they have, in good time, mismanaged this economy and come to posture as though that they can manage this economy better than anybody. It's not correct. It's not right. The situation with the Bank of Ghana, it is one that all of us, if we are minded to be objective, will come to understand that the circumstances were extraordinary and the decisions were made contingent upon the national interest. And I don't know anybody who can tell me that a country economy in crisis would expect its bank, a central bank, to sit aloof whilst a challenge persists and the economy destroys.
All right.
And that's why I gave you that proverb, the Akam proverb. So, you say obiwa, you are not mindful to say anything because you are in an extraordinary situation, the emergency situation that you are in, you are required to make all necessary decisions. That's why in COVID, Alfred, you and I got free water. You and I got free electricity.
Do you know that we're paying for that?
I'm saying that is why you have to listen to the content. Don't be too quick to just retort.
No,
I'm saying that, Alfred, I'm saying that in COVID, you and I got free water.
Okay.
In COVID, we got free electricity. At the time, you got it. All right? Because it was a contingent, it was an extraordinary situation that those extraordinary decisions has to be made.
Okay.
And my point to submit
thank you.
to
I think that
you've
made the point. I was going back and forth on trying to understand exactly the point that you were making. And also to say that it will be disingenuous to the facts to continue to make reference to the water and electricity during the period of COVID as free, because eventually we paid for it. So if you're saying it because you're talking about context,
that is contributing to misinforming
because you're talking about context.
Yes.
Context.
Yes, the context
of 2020. If you say that it was free in 2020, you also will be fair to the fact to say that we eventually paid for it.
Well, that's part of the measure to recover. Okay. But of course, you received it for free, didn't you? You received it for free.
Professor Jampo, so you agree that we're paying for it. That's all. It's just to be fair to the Ghanaian people.
I think what I want you to do is to be able to apportion your time such that you would not spend all the time on politicians. And when it gets to our turn, you give us 3 minutes.
You're not going to be giving 2-3 minutes.
No, I wouldn't have much to say. I don't have much to say, but we don't want a situation where the program is sort of hijacked by a few people. We all came here to make contributions, and so let us apportion the time so that if it gets to our time and we feel we don't have much to say, we can move on. Otherwise, then it becomes too lopsided. I have listened to the conversations. I've listened to the conversation. I think you asked clearly, Richard Ahiagba, a simple question that I was expecting him to be forthright. If I'm marking you, I will score you 0 because you spent 5 pages talking about not the questions, trying to set a certain context, and then you spent half page answering the question. You infuriate the one grading the script of over 1,000 students, and so well, that is the way he wanted to go. I'm happy he's going to be quiet because I don't start.
Well, Prof,
you know, that is a personal attack. I kept quiet.
No, but that's a personal attack, and I am careful to let you know.
I have every right to attack you in person.
Because
of our relationship.
Yes, but you're a professor, and you should know that. All right, so let me understand the context of the question. No, you can answer the right question wrongly if you don't appreciate the context.
All right, so let me go on. Just in some reactions to Richard Ahiagba's
I thought you were done.
Oh, a little more. I think he sought to offer so many explanations about why things are the way they are. Explanations. I've always argued that it is not about the explanations that make sense. It appears that we have been able to fool Ghanaians into appreciating and accepting those who offer or who proffer explanations to problems rather than those who offer solutions or who solve problems. My level 300 governance and leadership students know this. The essence of governance is to solve problems. It's not to set a context and to offer explanations as to why the problems are there. I don't care about the explanations. We are looking at the kinds of interventions that are proactively being fashioned out for the purposes of addressing the problems. That is what we should be talking about.
But Prof, and that's
not,
exactly what
please. You went on, and I didn't like what you were doing. There was this part of me that said I should be responding, but I kept quiet. Please, can you keep quiet so that we go?
No, Prof. I'm not going to take that. I'm not going to keep quiet so we go on. No, please, don't talk to me like that.
No, when you were talking, I kept quiet.
Just calm down.
I'm not calming down because
I'm not going to calm down either. I'm not doing understand.
Can you keep quiet for me to go on?
No, please.
When you started,
I am telling you, even when Martin just calm down. Just calm down. I am telling you that you are saying that I was actually telling us to talk about the program and the solutions, and I didn't talk about the peace effect. So I mentioned the peace effect. No, Alfred, please, 1 second.
When you were talking,
yes, because you are attacking me personally.
I'm not attacking you.
You are, please. And I don't like your tone about it. And I want to be very clear with you. The point is that I was proposing that we talk about the solutions. So don't be pretending as if I am explaining. I was saying that let's talk about the solution rather than be mired in describing the problems and denying that the problem exists.
All right, so it is under this. It is under this Bank of Ghana governor that we are told that the bank has a negative equity. It is this Bank of Ghana that is currently insolvent, and they are trying to proffer their own explanations to insolvency, saying that technically the bank cannot be described as insolvent because it's a state entity, which doesn't make sense to me. It is the same Bank of Ghana that has spent over 137 million on vehicles. It is this same Bank of Ghana that has collapsed over 400, banks and microfinances. The conditions that were narrated to collapse these banks, they have been manifested in a gazillion fold with what the Bank of Ghana is currently undergoing. It is this Bank of Ghana that we are told has printed illegally over 700 trillion, within 2 years. It is this Bank of Ghana that we are told they spent over $2 million on gold watches, and I'm asking myself, what is the relevance of gold watch to banking? Is the gold watch an iPhone that has some high technology inbuilt that enable them to work? Is the Bank of Ghana the place where you go work and you involve yourself in a beauty contest or some aesthetic looks or what? Okay, so these are some of the things that the ordinary taxpayers are talking about that necessitated a certain demonstration that, look, most of us have commended. I'm looking at the number of people who showed up. I'm looking at how they comported themselves. I'm looking at how their own organizers sought to restrain them. I saw Sami Jemfi holding a microphone, telling people not to move beyond a certain place. And I saw how the police also comported themselves. They presented their petition. And when the petition was presented, they were expecting the governor to receive. He was not there. He sent someone else. I thought that at one point in time, the insistence that the governor himself was supposed to be there to receive it was too much of a stretch. But that was within the right of the minority to make such demands. It was not illegitimate demands. Because if you look at also the caliber of people who were leading that kind of demonstration, then they had every right to demand that the governor himself was to be there. I was yesterday giving an example that if you, Alfred, you are sent to come to meet me at the University of Ghana, I can probably ask my research assistant to meet you. Okay, or I can meet you myself. But if your boss is coming, maybe I would ask my head of department to be there to meet your boss. If the president of the republic is coming to my place, even though the president may be coming to me, I would have to find a way of roping in my vice chancellor, because of levels. Okay, so you don't expect the leadership, okay, the minority leadership of the second arm of government leading a demonstration. And when we are talking about the arms of government, if we are going to look at things well, then the legislative arm of government should even be more superior to the executive arm of government, because it's the chamber that provides true representation. Not all of us voted for the presidency, okay, or for the president, but everybody has a representative in parliament. And so if you're the minority leader leading a group and saying they want to present a petition, then to my mind, they had every right to demand the presence of the governor. Well, the governor didn't show up. He sent someone else to be there. No problem. But what worries me is the aftermath, the comments, the reaction, and the response from the governor. That tends to, as it were, it's like you are trying to, because it appears because they have been able to put their hands in our mouths and seen that we don't even have more teeth to be biting. They want to now remove our rings through our shoulder. See, to me that is how dare the governor of Ghana describe the demonstrators as behaving like hooligans? Who is the governor of Bank of Ghana? Is he a demigod? Is he a deified ancestor? Who is he? Won't he die? And when he die, won't he also be buried? Is he superior to all of us? Is he suddenly oblivious of the fact that the one, Nana Akufo-Addo, who appointed him, is a serial demonstrator? And even when he demonstrates, people listen. When he demonstrated in the Kumipreku demonstration, Rollins, who is not a fan of multi-party democracy, listened. Okay, so what is the meaning of all this? Saying that there are civil ways of going about it. Is the Bank of Ghana governor more civil than those who are on the street? Does he appreciate the tenets of democracy? Does he appreciate the fact that in a democratic dispensation there is a right, there's a guaranteed right to dissent, and that in exercising the right to dissent, you can resort to all manner of things, including the staging of peaceful demonstration? I thought his comments were below the belt. I thought the comments were shared or expressed out of sheer ignorance of in appreciating the tenets and the canons of democracy. He owes Ghanaians a great deal of an apology. He didn't do well.
The governor?
Yes, the governor. He didn't do well. He misspoke. And I think that we must condemn him because, I mean, were they carrying guns? Were they armed? Were they going to disrupt the operations of the bank? No. And so, how dare he make such description of them? I am so appalled. I'm so disappointed. I think these are some of the things that we have to be focusing on. I don't want to belabor the points, but let me make the point again that we entrust the position of fiduciary trust into the hands of the people to solve problems. Okay? I've always narrated the origin or the reason why we brought into being a government. And if we bring a government into being, we do not, or we must not be concerned about the causes of challenges. That is the reason why we pay them and we give them all manner of things to make them enjoy a certain comfort. If you are driving in a queue, we would all be made to stop. And when the president, the duty bearers are coming, they will drive through. They have all manner of allowances. We pay for virtually everything that they use so that they can have the peace of mind to solve our problems. If you come and sit here and you try to offer explanations and you try to attempt to set a certain context, you do a lot of disservice to the concept of governance. Okay. And you can be telling this to the uninitiated and those who do not know. Okay, but I take governance and leadership. And I'm saying that can never be part of governance for us to spend all our time trying to proffer explanations as to why X is the case. We want, if X is the case and X is not good, we are interested in making sure that the X that is not good is out of the equation. Let's not overly, you see, the idea of overly blaming COVID for everything is disingenuous. Okay, we have thrown dust into the eyes of Ghanaians for far too long. Let us also appreciate and accept the role that we ourselves contributed. If you spent $2 million in buying wristwatches, if we continue to fetch water with baskets, and so there is always leakages and slippages in the system, we must acknowledge that these have also contributed to the problem. But we blame COVID as if COVID affected Ghana alone. COVID did not affect Ghana alone. Post-COVID, we have all traveled. We've seen what other countries are doing. We've seen how economies of other countries are doing. And so let us, it is so pasco to continue to refer to COVID or use COVID alone as the reason why we are where we are. And you cannot tell me that you gave me something for free when I'm paying for it. Okay, it's like, so we can't think, we don't think when you have given us some, and when you gave it to us for free, you never told us that tomorrow I will let you pay. But you gave it to us, and surreptitiously you are saying we should pay for it. And up to now, as we speak, go to the malls and buy and take a receipt. Okay. There is still COVID-19 levy that we are still paying, even post-COVID. Okay, so please, we come to sit here to do a dispassionate analysis of issues. It is not because of malice or hatred or we don't like people. Nobody liked this particular regime more than some of us who campaigned and did all we could to bring them into power.
Right.
But it appears that in our part of the world, when you help a regime to, you help a political party to come to power and they get to the reins of power, all of a sudden, their sins should be whitewashed and you must not speak against them. We say this to the MPP. We supported you. You came into power. You are misgoverning. We will comment. We will critique. If NDC comes to power tomorrow, we will support them because now they are given the incompetence of this particular regime. It makes the NDC look like a saint. But we tell them that if you come to power tomorrow and you are also misgoverning, we will continue to also critique you because for some of us, that is the role we have decided to play. And so when we are doing this, please, Richard Anyagba and Co., please, it is not out of malice. It is not because we don't like you or because we want to quarrel with you. We have also decided to throw this line. So allow us to play that role. Thank you.
Professor Jampo, appreciate your time. Thank you. Martin Kpebu, you, if I say you, the group that you lead are direct victims of the situation that we find ourselves in. Because of the domestic debt exchange program. In fact, one of the reasons the Bank of Ghana continues to make reference to why they are in this situation is because out of the over 60 billion cedis loss, over 53 billion was as a result of the DDEP as well. So you lived through this experience. And so hearing the response to the demonstration by the central bank, how did it strike you?
The response certainly falls far short of what is expected of the central bank as an institution and the governor as the CEO. Indeed, even this morning when I came in here, I was asking said that this hooliganism attributes, is it true? Does the governor stand by it? Because all along, even till now, I've been expecting that he will come out with a denial and an apology for maybe if he was taken out of context or something. So for me, I think I'm largely in a state of shock. So you see, I haven't said anything on social media or granted an interview on it all along, just in the hope that he will come and deny it and then render an apology. But if it's not coming, well, you've heard Prof. You've heard Honorable Kujetu, and you've heard Professor Bobkin. They are on point. I mean, a governor of a central bank shouldn't do that. He shouldn't, because, you know, through the DDEP, you saw what happened. People have suffered. People have suffered over. People have suffered haircuts, etc. Right? What do you expect? You see, I'm kind of a bit muted, kind of, because it looks to me like a joke, because I just can't imagine that the governor will refer to citizens as hooligans. When our history shows that we had, in our fight for independence, it was the same demonstrations that helped a lot. You'll find the Railway Workers Union, yeah? They did a lot of demonstrations. You will not even rule out, after the World War, the Cooperativo Sergeant Ajete and Private Odate, the 28th February March, right? Then you come to the Ni Boni, this in Manche, right? Look at all the people died. People use demonstrations to fight for our independence, and that's what helped. And they will tell you that in a democracy, from time to time, okay? The tree of democracy is watered with the blood of patriots and villains alike. You don't often make progress by gentle speeches. Sometimes the demonstrations, you see, when people come out to vent their spleen, okay, through the demonstrations, through the protests, then leaders sit up. So I'm very surprised that the governor said in a civilized society, people don't demonstrate. I don't know whether he lives on a different planet, because, you know, Occupy Wall Street wasn't a demonstration. Occupy Wall Street wasn't a demonstration. Which civilized society is the governor referring to? In the US, for over 100 years, people demonstrated freely in front of the White House. So, and then you go to the British ones, you even give this year's examples. Last year, there were demonstrations. Whilst we were doing the, just about the time we did the Kumipreku Reloaded, in the UK they did, Germany, etc. So, really, that's why I said I'm very measured, because somehow I'm so shocked that the governor really described citizens as hooligans. The governor, who himself didn't even understand what is printing of money. Yeah. Oh, God. You know, when the minority came out and said he had printed money, he came out and said, no, he hadn't printed money. So, you know that term, it has different meanings, apart from just fiscally printing. When the central bank lends to the government, okay, through those days, they used to call them open market operations. Right now, they call it quantitative easing. It's also printing of money. So for a governor who didn't even understand basic terms in banking, he has a nerve, the effrontery to call citizens hooligans. I'm shocked. So I'm just trying to be very measured. I can't say anything beyond that. But let's come to this, Alfred.
This is not you,
yeah.
Let lawyer.
Yeah.
You are coming to a point.
Richard. No.
Why are you trying to
I think that Richard has come to cause trouble, so I have to disarm him.
How do you mean I've come to cause trouble?
Let's
good.
Focus. Yes.
So let me go. Let me go to the IMF document. Okay. You see. Kristalina Georgieva, the IMF director.
So you're quoting from the IMF country report?
Yes, the agreement.
Yes,
the agreement.
The one that preceded the agreement. So what you have is the country report. Yes.
Yeah. So you will find them make the point that we already had lots of difficulties, right? So the Russian-Ukraine war only precipitated the problem. So it just made it faster.
So they describe it as pre-existing vulnerabilities.
Exactly. So I'm really surprised that we are still going on and on about this thing. Because it's clear that we had a problem. Yes, good. So let's read just one sentence here. It says, You see, it says, large external shocks in recent years have exacerbated Ghana's pre-existing fiscal and debt vulnerabilities, resulting in a loss of international market access, increasingly constrained domestic financing, and reliance on monetary financing of the government. The monetary financing, that's the printing of this money, which we said is a technical term that covers fiscal printing as well as quantitative easing. What those days where they used to call open market operations, right? So this is it. Look, you go to other parts of this report and you find it all over that we already had pre-existing vulnerabilities. And so for anybody to say it's Russian-Ukraine war in this day and age, it beggars belief. It beggars belief. Why are we doing this for ourselves? So this document, why? So that's page 2 that I read from, page 2 of the IMF agreement with Ghana. That's page 2 that I read from. You go down, there are still more. So, and what are these pre-existing vulnerabilities? When President Kufuor was coming, he said in 18 months, he was going to change the structure of the economy.
The Guggisberg economy.
Yes, and that's very good. Yes, the Guggisberg economy. And that is the selling point.
Teamwork or
that is the selling point because...
Please, gentlemen, respectfully.
That is the selling...
They are collaborating or something.
Flow.
Yes, that's the selling point because... You see, from our independence, that problem has existed for so long. So when you find a candidate who comes with a promise that in 18 months we'll produce our own perfume rights, in 18 months we'll do our own local production of poultry, fish, so much so that the billions that we spend on importing this will be a thing of the past. What else would you have? So, Richard, it's President Kufuor, then candidate Kufuor, who promised 18 months. You Google it, it's there. So today when you say Russia, Ukraine, then, Yes, it beggars belief. No, let's not even forget, in COVID, you got over 22 billion. And the COVID report showed what? You were sharing the money to this parliamentary candidate, Mrs. Tete, Sanarigu in Tamale. What did she say? She was giving 100,000. Other people were giving. You were sharing the money. Create, loot, and share. No. That's what you did. Mrs. Tete, is it not? Mr. Okanse, is it not true? Honorable Mrs. Tete, she said she was giving the money free, willy-nilly. You were sharing. Create, loot, and share, as Justice Doche put it in the way you make it. Create, loot, and share. That's what you did. Then you turn around today to come and say it's Russia and Ukraine. Look at the IMF document. It says that we had such a problem. Look, by the end of 2019, the same IMF said we're highly debt distressed. It's also a fact. By the end of 2019, we were highly debt distressed. So, by the time COVID was coming in 2020, you had more than what? The 18 months. You had more than the 18 months. You had double, a little over double. So you are asking for 18 months. You had a little over what? 36. Didn't you get the whole of 2017? The whole of 18. So that's what? 24 months. The whole of 19. 36 months. COVID, we did a lockdown in what? March, end of March. So you got 3 months in 2020 to add. So in all about 39 months, but you sought only 18. You got more than double. You didn't produce 1 acre of rice, of perfumed rice. You didn't produce 1 poultry farm. You didn't produce 1 factory to do vegetable oil. All the things that have caused this economy. And this is the structure of the Ghanaian economy. On average, every 4 years, we have economic crisis. So when you come and sit here and say it's unprecedented, then it sounds very laughable. It shows that people are clueless. The Ghanaian economy, look, you go to this is what, level 100 and 200 economics. They tell you every 3 to 4 years we go to the IMF. So if you are wise, won't you plan? Every 3 to 4 years we go to the IMF since independence. So you should know there will always be either cocoa prices will go down or gold prices will go down. It's cyclical. We've always had these things. So when you come and complain about COVID, when you've had you've had about 39 months, when you sought only 18 months to change the Gagisberg economy, you can't be heard. There can't be any sympathies. There's no way. I'm being very objective. Extremely. What else? Didn't you ask for 18 months? Didn't you ask for 18 months to change this economy? Is that not what you asked for? If at any point you thought that 18 was too small, where is the public document that now says that 18 was too small, so I want 36? There's nothing. Meanwhile, you've not produced even 1 rice farm, 1 poultry farm to change the structure of the economy. Rather, the facts show that these poultry farms have collapsed. Is that not so? Yes. So poultry farms have collapsed. Poultry farms have collapsed, and yet you were sloganeering, just singing slogans. So what do you expect? Okay, so read and then let's come in there. Let's come in there. You see, Bank of Ghana. So the governor who was talking plenty. The IMF report shows that he was spineless. He couldn't even hold government this in check. So somebody who can hold government in check is able to come out and insult citizens that they are hooligans. A man who doesn't even know what is the meaning of printing of money. Yeah, he can insult citizens that they are hooligans. I should have thought that the first thing would have been for him to learn the meaning of printing of money. So when he has learned it properly and he understands the various meanings of printing of money, and next time citizens come out to say that he has printed money, he would understand them. Then he can get some space.
Let me steal 30 seconds of your time. You see, the president of the land, several people, including Martin yourself, have called on him to resign. Finance minister, there's been several calls on this man to resign. But, and we are still calling on them to resign. But you see, look at their response. Look at the way and manner they've comported themselves. They have not come to describe those calling on them to resign as uncivilized and hooligan. So I'm wondering where the governor of Bank of Ghana learned this from.
Okay, so let me, lawyer, let me have Professor Bobking quickly, because, and don't lose that thought, because we need to go for a quick break.
Okay.
Now, there was reference made to what is happening or what happened in the Federal Reserve, and I asked specifically where Richard Ayagba was quoting from that the Federal Reserve posted losses, because if you look at the fiscal year 2022, as was published on centralbanking.com. I've made reference to that specific website because I was asking for the source of your document, but you asked me to check it out. Now, if you look at the centralbanking.gov, and then also, I'll give you another one, www.federalreserves.gov, you would find this information I'm about putting out. In October 2022, the central bank was paying interest than it was earning in terms of interest income. But if you look at the overall performance of the reserve as at the end of the fiscal or financial year 2022, as of January 13 this year, there was a report on the U.S. Federal Reserve's website, which I'm reading, that the 12 reserve banks provided $76 billion in net profits to the U.S. Treasury in 2022. Quote, most of the reserve banks ceased remittances in September. However, after recording a net loss across the system. According to preliminary financial statement, the Federal Reserve System recorded $58.4 billion in net profits as at the end of the year 2022. This figure is down from the $107.9 billion in 2021. So unless you're quoting from another source, I have made specific reference to verifiable websites and documents that our viewers can check, contrary to the information that the U.S. Federal Reserve posted losses in 2022. Rosa Bobkin, now, even if you make reference to what's happening across other central banks, does it in any way justify what we're faced with now?
Yeah, thank you very much. I think that if you look at the discussion in Ghana, you get the sense that there's a certain level of appreciation of external shocks. I don't think anybody is discounting that. When we talk about systematic shocks that are of a global nature, its impact is pervasive. You will see it across the board. Now, the difference where we are able to attribute nuances, idiosyncrasies, specific, context-specific, then you see differences in the resilience of every economy in response to these global shocks. So countries that were well governed had resilience running into COVID, and Russia, Ukraine had better immune system to withstand those shocks compared to economies that were poorly governed to some extent. So that is where you see the difference. Okay, so, and then you also see the difference magnifying in terms of how the impact, the pass-through effect across price, debt build-up, and all of that. So I think we've spent quite a lot of time in that, and the fact that IMF even agrees, for me, doesn't make much difference to me, because the reason I'm saying is that, look, after 60-something years of independence, if we cannot come to terms with the reality of what is happening, then we should feel sorry for ourselves. Then it means that we cannot go forward as a country. And it should not be the case for anyone to think that it will take the IMF to transform this economy for us in a way that will benefit every Ghanaian. No. The best helping hand we can find is at the end of our own arm. Now, if you look at the effect of COVID, and you even talk about inflation, look at it across the board, you see the marginality. We should feel a bit sorry if Ghana, the brightest star of Africa, is being discussed in the same category like Sri Lanka and the others at the bottom, that is not good enough. It's not a good benchmark. The point is that we can do better, and we should be able to do better. We can only do so if we accept responsibility. Now, if you look at it since 1992, Alfred, it always takes the connivance of the central bank to get us into a worse situation. We've seen relative stability informed by fiscal discipline, prudent monetary policy. Then you see fiscal indiscipline always going along with accommodating monetary policy. That aids that. That is not good enough. Typically, you want to be able to structure a system that also inures to checks and balances, where the central bank also acts as a check on the fiscal side. That is very important. Once you lose that, and actually, you know, I've tried over the years not to go into the other operational issues in terms of costs, lifestyle, posture of the central bank over the years. For which reason, perhaps a lot more people will prefer to retire at the central bank than maybe elsewhere. That is not good enough. That is not good. There is pain in the system. Ghana's food inflation is one of the highest. You know, sometimes when we talk about the inflation, we think that everything is just the average. Alfred, if you were to be staying in somewhere northeast of this country, food inflation is approximately 86%.
And that's supposed to be one of the food growing areas, northeast.
Yes.
The food basket. So if we have the food growing areas recording this high inflation rate, that's troubling to say the least, is it not?
You will see, yes, you will see regional differences. What I'm saying is that these losses we are talking about here, the instability, when you lift the veil, is human suffering. It's life. Today, 2 cities cannot buy cocoa.
Professor Bobkin,
3 cities can buy cocoa without sugar. I'm just telling you about income levels.
Indeed.
Let's come home. Macro. Let's come down to micro. Life. The average Ghanaian spends between 42% and 44% of his or her disposable income on food. So if you find yourself in a country where food inflation is this high, it tells you the impact. It tells you what Ghanaians are going through. Right. You also check across the globe food inflation, and you will see that.
Professor Bobkin, stay with me, because right after this quick break, we'll get into another aspect of this, and plus what the IMF has also been talking about, and the finance minister making the point that the economy has achieved stability. Professor Bobkin, I would have you speak to that. I'll go for this quick break because there was a certain break in your connection. Stay with us. We'll be back shortly. This is Key Point.
Just close the doors, and you're in a world of your own. Travel is not just about the destination, it's also about how you get there. Fly Emirates, fly better.
PrideBet, we all day inside. Join and enter the free daily sports quiz and win up to 25,000 Ghana cedis every day. Simply register at pridebet.com.gh now to start playing. PrideBet, let's go!
It's Dr. Ray on the beat.
Staying on top of the game requires a special kind of skill. Jacinta is back with another comedy special dab, Woman on Top.
To discuss with Presido when I meet him one-on-one, face-to-face, height to height. Let's talk. Let's be serious. Now, so Presido, disturb us for this country. Year of return, year of return. You return everything. You don't return our
virginity. Relaxing music by Kwampa Band. Performing comedians are Jacinta Center, foster romance and Tatiana Togo, and cleanse the drum. Join us at the National Theatre on Saturday, 7th October 2023 at 7 p.m. sharp. Tickets are selling for $350 premium, $250 VIP, and $150 regular. Dial *447*2219# to purchase your tickets on all networks or call 026-193-109. Sponsored by Accra City Hotel, Yango, Ebony Condom, M-Notify, Cocktail Laboratory, BFT Car Rental and Estate, Onga. Woman on Top with Jacinta. It's always fun when a right woman is on top.
You feel adrift as you transition into a new stage of your life. The future seems like a blank space until you discover the passion within. The canvas of the future is yours to paint. Welcome to a world of opportunities. Heritage Christian College, offering world-class university education, training compassionate entrepreneurial leaders.
It's great to be connected on a plane, but not all the time.
In a world where every moment counts, one team stands ready to deliver the news that shapes our lives. A team driven by truth, integrity, and unwavering dedication. They travel to the front lines in the tireless pursuit of truth to bring you the world stories like never before. Get ready to witness the stories that matter. We have the most trusted voices in journalism who are committed to delivering accurate, balanced, and thought-provoking news. TV3, first in news.
Do not intend to take advantage of other people because you may be taken advantage of.
I am a married woman who loved social media so much.
There must be principles in the home.
Okay.
Even as a prophet, there are times I don't pick up my calls. Okay. It doesn't matter the time you call me, you see. And it also depends on who is calling.
We started getting attached to each other. And this man told me he would want to go back with me when he's leaving Ghana.
Okay.
So I started thinking, what would I tell my husband?
You are in a marriage. It is blissful. Why the extracurricular activities? And when will our ladies learn that all that glitters is not gold?
The man left with the money you collected from the 10 people that he was supposed to use it to help your husband who sent your brother travel.
Yeah.
From what I heard in the confession, it looks like it's because her husband is in jail now and she's pregnant for the guy. That's why she's here.
One of my biggest problems now is that some people are going around with my picture, duping ladies and taking monies from them.
And your pictures are dupable.
Confessions shows on Saturdays at 9:30 p.m. on TV3.
Brought to you by
MTN. Get ready to witness the most dramatic kitchen battle ever. Drama in the kitchen where rivalries simmer, egos sizzle, and only one rival can claim victory. Two rivals, spatulas in hand, egos on the line. It's not just about the food, it's about the drama. Can they put their differences aside to create the most loving meal, or will the heat of the kitchen prove too much to handle? Are you a wife or a husband? Are you a girlfriend or a boyfriend? Can you cook with your partner's ex in a bid to see whose meal tastes better? Or can you compete with your mother-in-law or father-in-law in the kitchen? Then this is the show for you. On Drama in the Kitchen, you get into the kitchen with your partner's ex or in-law and prove that you own his or her taste buds. So much drama and love in one kitchen. Be part of the Drama in the Kitchen experience by sharing your details via WhatsApp on 027 722 2641. Stay tuned for Drama in the Kitchen, coming soon to TV3.
Gentlemen, hold on. Welcome back. Well, hold on. Hold on. Yes, respectfully. This is Key Point. Welcome back. We're live on TV3 Ghana on Facebook, also on 3FM 92.7, also live on TV3 Ghana on Facebook, DSTV channel 279, all across the world on 3news.com. While we seek some responses to some of the issues mentioned earlier, Stefan Roder was chef de mission of the IMF mission to Ghana, indicated that the country has ticked a few boxes, and the second tranche of the $600 million of the $3 billion IMF loan is on course. Take a look.
Optimistic is that these actions are already generating positive results. Growth in 2023 has proven more resilient than what we were initially envisaging. Inflation has declined. The fiscal and external positions have improved. International reserves are increasing again, and exchange rate volatility has significantly reduced. Once our executive board review is completed, Ghana would have access to another $600 million, bringing the total IMF financial support disbursed under the arrangement since May, when the program was approved, to about $1.2 billion.
From the finance minister as well, because at that same press conference, it was a joint press conference between the IMF and the finance ministry, and then also the Bank of Ghana. Finance minister indicated that the economy has achieved stability. Take a look.
External creditors, I believe we are doing well with regards to the engagement. Expected that this coming week we might actually get a proposal for them. Our target is to be able to conclude this thing before year end, and we are pursuing it. And I think achievements of the SLA also puts pressure on coming to faster resolution. So this achievement is important towards our negotiating stance going forward. The Paris Club Common Framework, MOU, certainly France and China continue to be very supportive.
Professor Bopkin has to leave us, so let me just round up with him, and I still have my guests with me in studio. Professor Bopkin, now, based on all the indicators taken into consideration, would it be wholly right to say that the economy has achieved stability as we speak?
Hello.
Hello, Prof.
Yes. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. So we had expected that Ghana was going to pass the first major review. So the IMF statement that the program is largely on course is largely consistent with expectation. And the reason I'm saying so is that if you look at the structural benchmarks set for the June end, for which reason provides the basis for this review, these are not significantly things that the country will not be able to achieve. And therefore, one is not surprised that Ghana has scaled the war largely, because once we've reached staff level agreement, already the managing director of the IMF is aligned. Of course, bear that in mind also within the global context of geopolitics and geoeconomic fragmentation. We bear that in mind, and what the IMF itself seeks to do with their former poster boy, Ghana, and the rest of them. So, but largely, we cannot say that we have achieved stability. We have seen signs. We've seen signs of recovery. but things are still very, very high. Inflation is still very high. 14.1% is still very high by world average. Interest rate is still in excess of 30%. The CD cumulatively has depreciated by more than 20%. So you could not realistically look at all the indicators and say that, yes, we have achieved stability. Of course, what did we expect? We went through all the sacrifices of domestic debt restructuring, haircut here, haircut there, utility price adjustment, higher taxes, some expenditure rationalization, simply because we want to have stability and we want to have recovery. So there's a price that we have paid in order to have this. That said, Alfred, the level of stability and improvement that we expect that will benefit the ordinary Ghanaian certainly cannot come within the first 6 months or even the 2 years of the implementation of the IMF supported program. Remember, the IMF focuses much more on the macro. It takes a while for macro level stability to translate to micro and to reflect in the pocket of the ordinary Ghanaian. So we are still a long way to go. And the consistency then is very important. Because macroeconomic stability, as we are beginning to see signs of it, is really coming to us at a great cost. It's coming to us at a great cost. So we speak right now. Project implementation has stalled. We are achieving stability in the FX market because we have suspended coupon payment on our external debt. If you read the IMF press statement, you will see that even though the signs that we have seen is largely also contingent on the success we make with the restructuring of our external debt, because that is where the risk also is. Because we are expecting that by way of external debt relief, annually in the next 3 years, Ghana is hoping to get from external debt about $3.5 billion annually for the next 3 years. That is huge. So that is where the emphasis will be. The progress we make from there, it means a lot for the implementation of the IMF supported program. That said, Alfred, we cannot pop champagne over this. We've seen this time and again. Macroeconomic stability. It's not an end in itself. It's only a means to an end. How do we build on this? And we all know, and that is what we should all be concerned about, because the IMF supported program is not what would address our concerns holistically and sustainably.
Okay, but
that should not be lost on us.
And the next leg of this will be the engagement with the external creditors. As the finance minister has indicated that in the coming weeks, some agreement sort of will be reached. Now, this is not going to come for free, is it not? Whatever form this agreement with external creditors takes, it will certainly demand some level of commitments from us. How costly will that be?
Yeah, so typically we say that bonds and bondage are from the same family word. Typically, the form that the restructuring will take, we can also learn from the case of Zambia. It can be reprofiling. It can be reprofiling. Some moratorium. Great. But even let's learn from what we have done with the domestic debt. We've just given ourselves largely grace period. In terms of the maturity, and then some gains in terms of coupon cuts. Now, because the country has submitted itself to the IMF, which is also a key condition in order to take advantage of the G20 common framework, for which Ghana has taken advantage of the debt service suspension clause. And the governor told us that so far we've saved about $2 billion.
Right.
And that is what has also helped with the stability of the city. Okay. So ultimately, if we don't get express debt forgiveness, which is most unlikely, and it's the case of risk reprofiling, it will come back to us one day. We have to pay. We have to pay. So it should not be like something that we think that, oh, some people are just there to just cancel our debt. Remember, from the official creditor committee perspective, they are also concerned about their taxpayers, because that's taxpayers' money.
True.
That's taxpayers' money. So we cannot just borrow, use it anyhow, and think that some people will just show up one day and cancel our debt.
Right.
I think it doesn't make us responsible as a country. Okay, but at least.
Indeed, I know you'd have to bounce it off of us, but a very, very important point that you made there. Appreciate your time. Thank you. Thank you so much for even going beyond the time that you said you're going to stay with us. I appreciate you. Professor Godfred Bokkins, a professor of finance at the University of Ghana. Lawyer Martin Kpebu, before I went to Prof, you're building up on that point because it ties into what we're talking about now, even with this IMF verdict on the state of affairs. Even though there's been some level of macroeconomic stability achieved, it's come at a great cost to us. That includes the DDEP that we're talking about as well.
Yes.
You know.
Yes, and it's good that we also mentioned that on page 7, the IMF warned that this program, if they don't do it well, is going to result in social unrest. Yes, that's what the IMF said. It's going to result in social unrest. These structural weaknesses that he failed to take care of and now is ballooned into a national crisis is going to be a problem. And let's read it because, look, duty bearers need to know that this is what the IMF itself says. Okay, there's significant downside. It says that, says that domestic policy slippages represent a significant downside risk to their projections, further compounded by risk associated to the end 2024 general elections. Likewise, public discontent and social unrest could affect the program if the adjustment policies do not sufficiently shield the most vulnerable or reforms do not improve economic conditions of the population. Let's repeat. Say, likewise, public discontent and social unrest could affect the program if the adjustment policies do not sufficiently shield the most vulnerable or reforms do not improve economic conditions of the population. So you see what we keep saying every day. Hey, these people that have been pushed into poverty, now you have over 3 million Ghanaians living on less than $1.90, and I've just converted to 24 cedis. So you see it here. The cocoa example Professor Bobkin gave and all those things. You see, so that is the core of the matter. That's the governance. Because look, when I go to the Constitution, that's the same thing the Constitution says in Article 36, that government should develop Ghana in such a way that livelihoods are protected. You can't go and say you are building Agenda 111 in such a manner that people are starving. If by the time you finish building, citizens are dead, do you have a country? You don't have a country if you don't have citizens. You say. So you read this IMF. Mr. Kanse, are you?
Yes.
But let's read Article 36 because from time to time it's good we remind ourselves that the Constitution prescribes how development should be carried out. This our Constitution has a lot of provisions. Right. 36(1). It says, the state shall take all necessary action to ensure that the national economy is managed in such a manner as to maximize the rate of economic development and to secure the maximum welfare, freedom, and happiness of every person in Ghana, and to provide adequate means of livelihood and suitable employment of citizens behind those ones who can't afford food. That is the essence of the matter. Because you go on there and the IMF says, yes, when government came into this program, they said we're going to increase the LEAP beneficiaries. We haven't seen the beneficiaries being increased. In the mid-year budget review, Oforiatta said next year. How? Meanwhile, here, you said you are going to increase beneficiaries. And that's how come for about 4 weeks now I've been reminding the Honorable Minister for Agriculture that look, the agricultural water project in the north that they're supposed to do to help farmers carry out farming even in the rainy season. He should hurry up because for over 6 months, he hasn't done much. Okay, the EU, the donor funders have been pressing that this project should go on well. So please, this particular thing, so you see that every time we keep referring to the poverty, it's a constitutional injunction. It's a constitution that says that government must give citizens food. It's a constitution that says that government must give citizens water, shelter, right? So when we come and talk, it's not like we're just doing politics. I come here to talk based on what the constitution dictates.
Indeed.
That is it. That is the point. And so, last point, I think the IMF, like they themselves have said, I think as they do the review, they should also watch. Their history shows that they were not the best that we wanted. At the UN level, it had been discussed, and they said they wanted a United Nations bank, a bank that could lend on better terms and do things better than the IMF. But, you know, like we always say, Thatcher and Reagan said, no, IMF, and now we have this situation. So IMF should remember that, look, we are not happy that the aided government to put in this project that is now causing us so much harm. Yeah, because we are suffering. We are suffering. You see the betting, taxes on sanitary pads, etc. That's not good for us. So the IMF in their review should also look that moving forward, this is not the way to develop. They can give us better terms. They can't stretch us because this write-off, you see Governor Addison is saying that it's the IMF that caused them to do that. And it has increased inflation. So IMF, now you are killing us. You are killing us. That's really what you're doing. You can do better than that.
Well, we also do better in managing the state of our economy as well, so that we don't go to the IMF, you know, to deal with us with all of these killing conditionalities. Robert Blackwell, on this particular point, because you see, you cannot take away the gains that have been made under this program, as acknowledged by Professor Bokpin and indeed the IMF as well. But you cannot also discount the cost or the sacrifice of the Ghanaian people as well that has led to these positives that we're talking about, is it not?
Look, Alfred, the time has come for the political class of our country to carry out deep introspection. Why do we keep doing the same things over and over and over again and expecting different results? We all know that there is no country on this planet that has developed with an IMF program. Not one. All the Asian tigers we celebrate, from Singapore to Malaysia to Japan, name them. None of them transformed their economies, liberated the full potential of their people, empowered their people, became first-class societies because they went under an IMF program. So why this cycle? And why do we keep going back to the IMF? That is why it brings me to the point that I was making earlier about a new leadership paradigm, about doing things differently, about saying that, look, we want a clean break from our history, and particularly we, the younger ones. And that's why I'm very disappointed this morning with the trajectory that my colleague Richard took in his earlier submission. You know, the young people on social media have an expression which I find particularly insightful. You know, when you are going on and on and on, they just come up with a one-liner. You go explain tire.
Yeah.
They don't even waste their time to finish what you are saying.
Yeah, it's true.
Or writing.
Yeah.
You say you go explain tire, and they dismiss you and walk. They don't have time for that.
Yeah.
Leadership is about solutions. Look, this business of assuming that the people are not discerning, and that it is how we are framing the narrative, or how journalists are doing their work. Please, I think that we have heaped enough insults on the people. You cause them pain, you cause them unemployment. Look, as we speak, have you analyzed the cost of the current IMF program? If you read the 2022 budget, a copy of which I have here, page 58, go through that page and see the costs that we have to bear. There is a total freeze on employment in the public and civil sector because of this. Major projects have been suspended. Projects that were almost complete. Check the state of the Kumasi airport. Check the state of major roads. They have been discontinued. As I speak to you, workers have been laid off. Talk to contractors. As I speak to you, key sectors of this economy are not being financed. Road contractors are owed 15 billion cedis. And look, we are nowhere near even the full brunt. Wait for the 2024 budget coming in November. As part of this program, read the staff level agreement. There are going to be a raft of new taxes. So the real bitter pills are coming. They are coming. Can you imagine more taxes under the current debt restructuring, financial haircuts, all the ordeals that people have had to go through? So look, this IMF program is a program that was avoidable. I thought that as a political class, we had all become wise, and we said that, look, the last program that we went under, that will be the last one. At least there was an agreement on both sides of the divide. NDC said it will be a last program. MPP said, look, we will never go back to the IMF. Because we all know that, look, it becomes a vicious cycle. It doesn't transform your society. You just take a hit. It causes you so much pain. So why did we come here? If you read the finance minister's letter to the IMF, begging for this bailout, dated 1st May 2023, and it's at page 53 of your report. The IMF application letter signed by Ken Ofori-Atta, he himself admits that external shocks have heightened pre-existing vulnerabilities and pushed the economy into crisis. He himself. When you are writing to the IMF a different narrative, a different story, then when you come and sit on TV3 Key Point, you say that it's all external shocks. Pre-existing vulnerabilities. Look, let's look at some key data. 2016, the debt stock, which they made a lot of noise about and hanged President Mahama for, was 120 billion. By 2019, before COVID, the debt stock had increased to 225 billion. They had added 105 billion. Can you imagine? They had almost doubled it before COVID. Take the debt to GDP ratio. In 2016, it was 56%. By 2019, long before COVID, it had risen to 70%. You remember that when we were in power, all the experts said, look, we have to watch it. Well, you don't have to get to 60%. Baumia's lectures, that once you're approaching 60%, you are in trouble, you are in crisis. Your debt levels are not sustainable. Don't get there. We made sure we kept it below 60%. They came to power, and in just 2 years, they exceeded that, 70% before COVID. You have probably forgotten that the CD plummeted so badly that before COVID, they set up a 40-member committee. Do you remember? Which had the likes of Franklin Kujo, they brought civil society. Interestingly, they left out Baumia, the head of the economic management team, in that 40-member committee. That is how helpless they were in managing the currency before COVID.
Right.
You take the debt servicing amount. In 2016, it was 11 billion. By 2019, it rose to 37 billion, 91% of total revenue. Take the budget deficit, which was kept below 5% in 2016. By 2018, it had gone to 7.5%. By 2019, it was 7%. That's the reality. So don't come and hide under COVID. In any case, when they talk about COVID, they conveniently leave out the fact that COVID was a windfall. Yes, we regret the deaths, we regret the hospitalization, but it brought in unprecedented amount of money.
Why you round up?
They got 30 billion cedis from COVID. What did they do with it? Have you read the Auditor General's report? The Auditor General reports that the monies largely could not be accounted for. Diversions. You remember what happened at the Ministry of Information? Money for frontline health workers. Communicators were sharing it. You know, so when they talk about external factors, COVID, it brought in 30 billion, which they dissipated, create loot and share. Let me also
round up for me. Yes, I know with that.
Richard Ahiagba shot himself in the foot when he went to quote that IMF document on the global economic situation. He himself, in reading, reads that the IMF says that average inflation in advanced economy will be 5.7%. In emerging economies will be 8.5%. Is that where we are?
Okay.
We are an outlier in excess of 40%. Take all our neighbors. I've gone for the data. Take all our neighbors. Ivory Coast is doing 4.6%. Okay. Nigeria is doing 21%. Benin is doing 2.1%. Kenya 6.8%. Zimbabwe, can you imagine Zimbabwe? Is doing 18.4%. Senegal 5.3%. Inflation. South Africa 4.8%. Liberia 11.1%. Nobody is where we are. If you take even the countries, Ukraine, which is receiving the bombs, is doing 11.3%. So please, let's stop insulting the intelligence of Ghanaians. There's so much pain, there's so much anguish, there's so much hardship you have created. The least you can do is just apologize for the abysmal performance, your economic mismanagement.
Okay. Now, this is key point. I'll go for this last break. We'll come back and then we'll round this conversation on this particular issue. Stay with us. We'll be back.
We all day inside. Join and enter the free daily sports quiz and win up to 25,000 Ghana cedis every day. Simply register at pridebet.com.gh now to start playing. PrideBet. Let's go!
Life can get hectic, and sometimes we forget to prioritize our well-being. That's where Vernal Mineral Water steps in. A refreshing solution packed with essential minerals, Vernal Mineral Water keeps you hydrated and balanced. Whether you're at home or work, Vernal Mineral Water is there to keep you going. Don't let a busy schedule hinder your health. Make Vernal Mineral Water a part of your daily routine. Share the love with Vernal Mineral Water, the choice for a healthy, vibrant you.
This advert is FDA approved.
Welcome back to Key Point. Now, Mr. Agba, even though, as confirmed, there has been progress made under this IMF program, you cannot also discount the cost that the Ghanaian people have had to make for this progress to be achieved, and really why the president is not conceding to the suggestions to cut down the size of ministers, because governance cost, as Professor Bobkin indicated earlier, has been one of the major things that we have to deal with in terms of expenditure line items in this country. Why?
Alfred, thank you very much. I've sent you something just to answer my good brother, lawyer Webu, about government has not created one poultry farm, one rice farm, and all of that. I have a list of them here. I'll send it to you, but especially. So next time when you come, read it so people can see. But I sent you one. I'll send one to Alfred.
Let's make
so and because it doesn't have time, but I'll send it to you so you can read it. But this government promised moving the economy from taxation to production, and it did just that. And the one thing that we have to be honest with ourselves with is policy is a process. And so to date, there is about some 278 one district, one factories created. And they are working, they are producing. One good example is what I gave you. You can see and show that. I have a list here I can read to you. He talked also about rice factory, that we haven't created one rice factory. Yes, there is a number of them. The one in Fumbisi is almost ready to be commissioned. There's one rice factory in Savlugu that is operational as we speak. So two, the whole gold watch thing, my good professor was saying it and believing in removing his watch. It's not true. And you, Alfred, you were asking the right question here. It was not under this administration. Sammy? Yes. Sorry? Alfred, you see that you were removing your watch to demonstrate ABCD. I will send you a picture of it. Please show it so your viewers can see. It's not factual. It happened under the NDC, all right? And there's publication to that effect. So the volume of misinformation just coming, like a train that is lost control and just going down is enormous. And that is confusing Ghanaians. And Alfred, that was just the context in which...
I asked a specific question about...
No, it's okay. I'll answer,
IMF.
please.
Yes, please answer that, because we are dealing with time. We go
Alfred,
back and forth,
see,
respectfully.
I agree. The fundamental reason we come here is to inform and educate. And your questions are to inform a certain information. And I think that you allow us, once you ask the question, we'll get there. The point I am making is that the volume of misinformation out there is just dizzying.
Okay.
And also on your point, I need to respond to that also, on the Federal Bank, the Federal Reserve Bank. I will give you a Reuters story.
I'm not talking...
No, it's important because it created the impression that what I gave you was not true. But the projection is even worse, that by the time the 2025, the U.S. Central Bank will be incurring in excess of 200 billion debt, 200 billion. I'll give you the story to read. No, and it referenced the same thing that you said, but I'm just letting you understand the situation central banks are in. And the key thing I want to... Hold on. It made losses. No, the point is... But the point is, just hold on, please. Please don't interrupt me. The point is that...
I've spoken only once.
Yes. No, you get the chance. Okay. Please. So the point is that... But the point is that he gave me 5 minutes, so allow me to use the 5 minutes. But he says that... Look. He says that in spite of all this debt, and I'm reading the statement, I'll send it to you. It says that in spite of all this debt, this is the Reuters story. It said, by the same time, the central bank had cautioned many times that the situation is in no way, impairs its ability to conduct monetary policy and achieve its goals. So we're talking about a central government incurring losses, and its ability to conduct its policy mandate is not impaired. So I just want to put that in context for you. Now,
you have 1 minute to respond to this.
No, you said 5 minutes. I beg you.
You started at
just that's okay. Just allow me, please. Even if you're second, I'm okay. One, the issue we're talking about, they keep talking, we got 30 billion, 20 billion, COVID brought you that. You see, fiscal policy is a combination of what? Government spending and taxation. So when he says you share the money, it was toward regenerating the economy. It was not for people to actually just vanquish the money. You know this, it happens, that there is central government disbursement to people for purposes of creating demand from an economy that is in a slump. So it's a policy position. They cannot just make these things and walk away for free. And Alfred, you say is 1 minute that is left. There are a whole lot of issues that we have to deal with here.
Well, thank you.
The last point I want to make. The last point I want to make is that, in fact, senior, no, I beg you.
No.
Samuel was just talking. I haven't even spent 2 minutes. I beg you.
Yes.
You see, my good brother talked about, the debt we make big deal about 120 billion that they left, or 122 billion, the debt that they accrued, that we're making a big deal of it. Ask him, when they took over in 2009, what was the debt stock when they inherited? 9.5 billion. And you left it some odd $122 billion, and you're telling us. The point I want to make in simple terms is that, Alfred, speaking to Ghanaians about the difficulty we are in is real. This government has acknowledged that. But what we want to do is to show the conversation about how we are regenerating the economy. All the facts that have been put forward yesterday shows that this economy is coming back, and it will come back. The indicators are showing. The point is clear, that the NDC has no alternative offering. All they put forward, and my brother has done, when I asked him, so he has not finished speaking. But now he has finished speaking, but not a single Not a single
your time is up. Thank
on how they were going to solve the problem. And we have shown you in PCPED how the economy is coming back, and it will come back.
To you on this verdict of the
thank you. I read what made the headlines. The IMF saying that Ghana is doing well. Ghana is doing well. And the question I kept asking myself when I read the headline was that, who is the IMF? Who are they? Do they understand our challenges better than ourselves? We don't need such attestations from them telling us that we are doing well. Let me define to you what good governance is about.
When we talk about good governance, we are talking about efficient and effective management of scarce resources, such that it translates into developmental outcomes that are tangibly reflected in the lives of the people. Now, if Ghana is doing well, IMF would not come and tell us. We ourselves, the ordinary people, would look into their living conditions and say that we are doing well. Okay? So it is not about them. You see, it is offensive, it is annoying when you are hungry and somebody sits in the comfort of his air condition and say that you are not hungry, things are better for you. It doesn't make sense. No, be say what mean. That's what they are trying to tell us. It doesn't make sense. We don't like such attestations. Let governance be carried out such that the developmental outcomes will be tangibly reflected in the lives of the people. The people themselves will clap. The people themselves will sing the praises of government. We don't want any propagandistic attestation from the IMF. They don't know anything better than we ourselves. Thank you.
Lawyer Matikbebo.
Yeah. Okay.
On
right.
This particular issue, because you see, in the end, and let me just make the point that when I put out the facts as published by the Federal Reserve, I didn't make reference to a story. It was the federalreserve.gov website, the audited accounts of the 12 federal banks of the United States that indicated the profits that have been posted as at the end of the fiscal year 2022. So that can be made available. You can check it as well. It is not a Reuters story. Yes. Now, on this particular point about the issue related to the impact of this particular program, there's been calls for not just the citizens to make sacrifices, but government as well to be seen to making corresponding sacrifices as well. Has that been exhibited so far?
Not at all. Not at all. You remember the poignant statement that the German ambassador made, Daniel Krah, right? Yes. You remember he asked, or he even told President Kufuor that his government is too big. In Germany, they have a smaller, size of government. And that is the point. The whole German ambassador, I'm not sure in the recent past, a German ambassador has had cause to make such a statement. So that tells you that the sacrifice is nowhere to be found at all. You look at the government, other expenditures that they said they would cut. You remember when we were going into this DDEP, we came out with a whole table, things that they should do to cut down. They haven't done much. They haven't. The Oforiatta said, oh yes, it's an interesting paper. They would look at it, and they've shelved it. So far, you remember Justice CJ Sofo Ekufu Yasantua also came out to ask that what did they do with the plenty money? So far, it's just like what Prof said. We analyze based on evidence. If there were cuts, we would have seen same. Right now, to the extent that people are suffering, the fuel prices are up. You see, even the last time the prices came down, GPRT refused to reduce. Food prices are still up. My favorite examples of yam and then toothpaste and all those, they are still where they are. They haven't gone down much, except yam that has come down by about 5 cedis to about 35 Ghana per tuber, right? So you don't see the cut. And even to make things worse, Mr. Council, let me bring this in. In recent times, there's even a heightened sense of insecurity in the Cantonment's airport area. This armed robber who has been robbing, if you look at it. So we would, and it ties in, because for us, security is very key. Apart from the food, you also want to go to bed and sleep soundly, knowing that no armed robber will come. So we'll call on Ghana Police Service to work on it. That lone armed robber, you see they've sent pictures around. It's causing a lot of insecurity in airport, cantonments, Labone area. Those are hundreds of thousands of citizens. So being a big security problem, I think Ghana Police Service, IGP Dampare, we beg you, because our big people, even say all citizens too, because when he's done raiding cantonments, airport, and Labone, he'll come next to us. So we can't just assume that we don't live in this area, so it doesn't affect us. So please, that lone armed robber, we should deal with it. Okay.
Appreciate it. Thank you very much. And just a minute each for, yes, Richard, the specific concern is about the corresponding actions that government has to take to at least complement the sacrifices that the Ghanaian people have made for us to get this progress under the IMF program. Is government willing to make these sacrifices?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Why hasn't that been executed so far?
That has been done, and you see the report indicates that the government, by the outcome of these staff level engagement, demonstrate that yes, have kept to all the indicators specified under the agreement, both the quantitative and the indicative indicators have been adhered to, and as a matter of fact, when the board sits, Ghana is likely to be deemed as past this review. And so that shows you. And then the economic indicators showing here, and I think that, Prof, it's not as if IMF is telling us about us, but we are seeing the inflation measure that we put out. It is not IMF who did it for us. The GDP numbers that we are reporting, it's not IMF that did it for us. Okay. We are the ones measuring and reporting.
All right.
So definitely the economy is coming and will return back.
Yes.
My message is simple. This government has failed. We cannot wait to kick them out of office. But before they leave, they should stop the looting. It's unfortunate we didn't have time to discuss the latest scandals, but we'll return to them. The looting of prime airport lands, which I exposed this week, the Heaven Builders, a company that has no track record. Yesterday, I went to check the address out. It was some uncompleted building that has been overgrown with weeds. See what has happened with the Frontiers documents I put out. They brought in a private company without track record that made over $130 million.
Okay.
It is the looting. The looting. I mean, see what has happened. See what has happened. See what has happened over National Cathedral. Over 330 million.
I want to apologize to our viewers for not going on to the third issue, which is the issues related to the teachers, the exodus of the teachers. Gentlemen, so I would put it out that I apologize to our viewers for not going to the third issue, that is the teachers. I would want to thank you very much, Richard. Also, thank you to you as well, Samuel Okujeto, a Black One North Tongue member of Zarans. Appreciate you. On behalf of the team, thank you.